Last time, on Talora Tales. Our heroes, which still do not have a proper name, but hopefully we might solve that in the somewhat near future, come down from Zavel Caverns after they defeat the last ogre in their path, saving the sole survivor of the merchant caravan they had been sent to retrieve, as they are rather exhausted but laden with deep wood cider and a somewhat mostly dead dwarf. They return back to the road within the nomadic lands and actually flag down some of the nomadic people, which then one of their riders collects the fragile individual they carry and hurries them off to Messidore. Traveling the last few days back to their home, riding the high of victory, they come into contact with their rival guild, which they have not yet interacted with up until this point, which attempts to offer, or they do offer, to buy the goods that the party have retrieved, hoping to potentially secure that renown for themselves, but very politely declining said offer, our party trudged forward, arriving at Messidore on the 27th of June. It is perhaps maybe 6 or 7 afternoon, evening. People argue with me if 7 is afternoon, but we'll go with it. And you all are riding up to the walls of Messidore, that southern expanse beneath the city, kind of devoid of the structures that had once stood there. Your cart is still laden with goods. A little quick correction from last time is the initial shipment was about 250 pounds, and you guys ballpark probably have about 220, maybe 210, but again, enough to satisfy the contract. But you would be riding up, there would be a few guards kind of milling about at the entrance. You are coming in that southern gateway, and then going into the kind of more urban sprawl of the city. But is there any sort of precise way you're approaching, or just kind of rolling up to the gates and seeing what happens?
I don't think there's any reason for us to be coy, right? Just roll in, get off the frickin' road before something else crazy happens.
So, trudging ever forward, the horse that has been a very strong individual during this travel, pulling you steadily. The guards at the gate would kind of like all spy you, and there's enough knowledge that there's a new group, a new adventuring group kind of milling about the city, that there's a little bit of recognition, but obviously these guards aren't intimately familiar with who you are, but they give you a little wave, and there really wouldn't be any sort of pause, as they would just kind of let you roll in.
These are members of the Green Hoods, correct?
Yes. I don't know if I've shown it yet, so I'll go ahead and throw this up. This is a kind of somewhat idea what a Green Hood guard looks like. Obviously it changes a little bit, but that's a general aesthetic, so. But yeah, the city is still, obviously alive with some sort of life. It is later in the evening or afternoon. But the majority of businesses are kind of closed. Everyone's kind of winding down. The Emberbore Guild, your home, is only like a few blocks, if that, north. But where you're actually returning the goods is over in Old Town across the bridge. So wherever you guys are pointed first.
I would think back to the Carquin family would be.
Yeah, I'm determined to hand this in as well before doing anything else.
All right. So maneuvering yourself over to Old Town again, kind of passing by various townsfolk. You would arrive at that kind of manor compound area that the Carquin family reside in. The few, almost like campus that they own with the few other buildings, the granary or their stable or whatever that building actually is called, being your goal. Pulling the wagon up is the unloading is kind of slowing down, certainly for the evening or the afternoon, but that little tiny office that's kind of attached to the side. The doors open, and you see the dwarf, who's still steadily working, even by candlelight, kind of spies the wagon, and you see, just through the doorway, a little bit of surprise as you pull in, but he doesn't, make any motion to move as he goes back to putting down notes.
Standing up from the seat, the driver's seat of the wagon, Sven will just call out, "Yes, we turned successful."
Kind of peer through the doorway at you. He's like, I gotta count. And he like hops down from his seat, grabs a little notebook, starts waddling out of the office. Well, I imagine you guys wouldn't protest to him kind of starting to offload things and organize things, and he hops back up in the wagon. It's like pulling things out, like shaking the bottles, making sure they're full, checking the seals and all that good stuff, which would take a small bit of time.
Excuse me, sir. We were able to recover approximately 88% of the goods that were initially transported. Unfortunately, about 12% seem to have been drank by the ogres.
I don't know what a fucking percent is, but all right. He just keeps like marking stuff down.
Stroking Mr. Sparkles. What kind of a businessman doesn't know percentages?
But after a fair amount of time, probably like maybe almost an hour or so, as he's pretty diligent about checking every crate, he'd eventually, hop back down, wave over a stable boy who's coming over to kind of get the cart from you all, and looks you over. The Clarkwind family is paying for this, so I'll have them send the payment to the place.
Emberbor Guild House.
All right, I'll have them send it there. All right.
Well, that's
Waddle back into his office.
We're new to this. Bye.
But you all would be left without your cart or wagon, but your mission accomplished. We probably should have covered this a little bit, but not too bad. Whenever you complete a contract, the actual process within the guild is coming back and debriefing with the guild master, and then he kind of signs off on it being done, and then Ayla signs off on the payment being received. So you're done, but you still have to like kind of do the paperwork more or less. So.
Yep.
So back to the guild, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do paperwork if there's somebody that has to do it.
We're not going to check on Boma.
Well, certainly, but he is in good hands now. But I think we should probably get back to complete our contract with Master Seatree.
It's not the contract, the retrieval of his companions. I believe Koval would be the one to sign off on that part.
That's a good point. Whatever you want to do, guys.
Well, it's getting later in the day, and given that both of them weren't in great shape last we knew, maybe that's better left for morning.
Too true.
I, for
Let
one,
us
would
see
appreciate a
what
bed.
Agreed.
So back to the guild. As you all make your way back, I will go ahead and you won't be in the proper spots, but drop you back in the guild hall. There we go. There we go. All right. So it is it's pretty late. Like we're almost like at 9 or 10, as it's like fully nighttime at this point. You would all come into the guild hall, and Ayla would be, as far as you can tell, kind of in the process of like cleaning up. She's like closing her ledgers and kind of putting them away, putting little caps on her ink pots. And as you come in, she like looks over like, "You're back. Were you successful?"
Wildly so.
You don't look injured at all. This is amazing. What happened?
Quinn, would you like to tell her?
I think I'm good. You go ahead.
Well, Quinn, I wanted him to tell you because he dispatched 2 ogres. I mean, we all helped, but he was the one that well,
As you're
it
saying
was.
this, you see Ayla kind of like leaning over the counter as Quinn slips by, like looking after him, like, oh, well, of course he would, yes.
He was very heroic, and we retrieved 88% of the goods that were lost, and
88%, that, you all did a wonderful job.
I thought we were going to be in trouble for not bringing it all back.
What, was the customer satisfied?
He doesn't look like he's satisfied by many things, but maybe.
Well, I guess we'll hear about that tomorrow.
But more importantly, we found one of them alive, and we were able to bring him back to get treatment. The elves helped us.
As you're speaking, and Ayla's like about to respond, you all hear the noise of a door being opened at the back of the hall, and you see Camus just like peek around the corner, like looking at you all. It's like, Ayla, you're off the clock. Go home. You, bed, and kind of like pointing to you all in the front of the lobby.
As you wish.
We have a bedtime?
I think he's worried about your rejuvenation.
Oh, well, I could do with some sleep and some study before bed. But
She kind of like closes the last of her book, and as she's like kind of looking around and walking past you, she stops by you, Thomas. Is like, he probably doesn't want me saying this, but he was very worried when you were all gone. He's going to be very pleased in the morning, I'm sure.
he doesn't look like he's pleased by much.
Well, I'm going to head home. All of you, sleep well. Fabulous job, truly. Have a good night. And she starts like waddling towards the door.
Hey, yes, would you able to procure provisions by any chance?
Provisions?
Yes, for the kitchen.
Whatever's in there, yes. It's not exactly my... Well, I guess it isn't really anyone's job currently.
Oh. Okay, thank you, Ayla.
Have a good night, everybody. And then she, like, as she's getting to the door, pauses and goes, do we have a name yet?
Benjamin, Thomas, the big man in the back.
I'll see you all in the
Bring
morning. And then she leaves.
Well, Svenjamin, that was exciting.
It was. Look at you. You survived your first encounters of combat.
Technically, we that was our third combat encounter, but yeah.
But you were in the thick of it. Remember, you cast the webs.
Is that a play on words? I'm kidding with you. No, but what do you think of... I mean, I was just worried, but yeah, I think we did pretty good.
It was, all in all, very successful. You know, I did not expect to rescue a man. I almost feel...
You did. I mean, if it weren't for you helping, I mean, I couldn't have made that potion, and we made quite the team out there tonight. I just wanted to tell you, thank you for your help, Sven.
I told you. Too long ago. Got your back.
I'm a little tired though, so I think I'm gonna I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yes,
Hopefully.
I have a ritual to do in the kitchen, but I shall join you all shortly.
Good night, Sven.
Night, Thomas.
What ritual
Right.
are you doing in the kitchen?
Well, I have a block of incense for rituals. So you're gonna, smell some incense burning in the kitchen there for a little bit. Then I'll munch on whatever you can find. Although I'm getting the feeling that is nothing.
Well,
Uh,
there is still food, or I guess ingredients in the kitchen, but there's nothing incredibly fancy, and some of it is spoil that's just kind of been left there.
okay, yeah. No, I was thinking like some cheese or something because we've been gone what 10 days,
You guys left the
6 days?
21st, and you got back the 26th
Mhm.
in 6 days, yeah.
6 days. Yeah, and then afterwards, hop it back into bed.
All right. Any final things before everyone hunkers down?
What's everyone in the room doing right now?
Brandon walked in, got out of his adventuring clothes, and went to bed.
I'm actually like I was the first one in the room, just headed straight there without stopping to chat. And by the time anybody else gets in there, I'm in shirtless, shoeless, just standing there in breeches, kind of trying to towel off and get somewhat cleaned up.
As I walked in and as I saw Quinn doing that, I just kind of almost out of reflex, because I did it on more than one occasion for Sven when he was passed out drunk. I would just help prestidigitate him clean a little bit. Just I'm sorry. I if you want, I can put the dirt back.
Oh, that is convenient.
It really is. I used it. I had cause to use it quite often. Sven's robes were far too fine to be fouled with the vomit that found itself on them quite often. But I guess we should be quiet. It looks like Brandon's asleep. But
There is no reaction from him at all. Like, he is dead to the world.
did you know how you can tell if somebody's faking sleep?
How?
And I'll go over to Braynoon and I'll just blow gently on his eyelids. Are you truly asleep?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, as you'll notice, if somebody is asleep and you blow on the eyelids, they don't flutter at all. But if they're faking it and you blow on the eyelids, they'll twitch a little bit.
Were you often in situations where you had to determine if someone was faking asleep?
No, it's just one of those things I know. I know a lot of things, and I don't know how many of them are useful, but I'll be happy to teach you what I know. But I've just found that more knowledge is usually better than less. So.
True enough.
I guess Braynoon's my bunkmate for tonight. Good night.
Good night.
Well, Sven and Quinn, do you find yourself to bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't stay there though. I want to get up pre-dawn.
Okay. Like early in the morning? We're talking like, what, like 5 or 6 in the morning?
More like 4.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess it would be fitting to, jump ahead to that time. There would be no explosions besides the building during that time, so as 4 o'clock rolls around and the beginning of the dock kind of is drifting through the window, of course, like, the actual labor isn't at full swing yet, but people are arriving, kind of getting equipment set up and like groggily kind of greeting one another. But you would be first awake in the somewhat, tranquil calm of the Emberboar Guild.
Gonna get up and get dressed quietly, and then go out to the hall and light my hooded lantern and keep the hood drawn. So I think it's just like 5 feet of dim light
Mm-hmm.
around me. And trying to remember. So first, I'm going to head to Ayla's work area
Mm-hmm.
and start snooping.
All right. What exactly are you looking for?
I don't have an exact. I don't have a target or a goal. It's more just I want to know what's in the paperwork. I want to know what's in the books. You know what? Let's say that it's in the direction of what was going on with the Ember Boars in Camus's early days,
Okay.
or maybe even pre-Camus.
Oh, well,
There
I'll
is such a
put
thing.
forward that Quinn would certainly get this, as I think it was talked about in the first episode.
Mhm.
Any sort of like old records that aren't like currently
Be
being used
upstairs.
are up in the library.
Okay, all right. I was wondering about that. So I'm already here, so let's just do a skimming of the books of the ledger,
Okay. Throw me
Um,
a investigation there, sir.
so that know how dire the straits are. And launch that across the room.
That means it's
All
lucky.
right. That's gonna be 19.
Okay. As previously stated, Ayla's workstation is chaotic but organized. It's very clear that she has this system that she's kind of developed that just kind of builds one after the other on the kind of messy foundation of the previous part. But everything kind of has a place, even though that place is somewhat askew. But she has all these like journals and ledgers and like equipment kind of spread out over to like your back right on the western end or the western wall of this little space. She has like a regional map splayed out, and there's a few little like pinned notes on various parts of that map. There are like city and town names kind of all throughout the Providence, just to, if she ever needs to refer to it, it's kind of there and ready. But if you actually like take a glimpse over what she was like currently working on, there are names that don't really mean anything to you and kind of like quick dash notes behind them, and it could be anything from like came in Tuesday or was last seen north, or various just like really finite details on things that without context doesn't exactly make sense. There would be a fair amount of there'd be a bestiary opened up on her desk still, and it is like the little ribbon bookmark, I'm sure there's a term for that, but I don't quite know it, is pulled and laid out on a page kind of describing various like kobold communities and societies and inner workings, and it's clear that she was kind of looking over that before she ended her day yesterday. But yeah, I mean, there would just kind of be like all this general stuff. Like I could give you more specifics, but that's like the broad stroke of it.
How about I'm being very careful to make sure everything goes back the way that it was.
Mhm.
The angles, the upturned corners of papers, everything like that. Because she seems like the type that would be like, this piece of paper was 2 centimeters to the left.
My quill was resting on the right, now it's resting on the left.
The last thing I'll look for is notes about us.
Okay. Your contracts would be, she has like a bunch of clay pots under her desk that act almost kind of like filing cabinets, but for scrolls. And if you kind of like pick one up and unravel it, you can realize there's like a through line or a theme for each pot. And so as you pull one out of one of the pots down there, you would find all of your guys' contracts that, state all the different requirements and agreements and whatnot, and then your name. And beneath that is stuff that you kind of offered up when you signed up, like where you came from and what your name is and what your experience is to whatever you actually offered is on that piece of paper. And that would, basically be it as far as you can find, just kind of looking through things without any sort of direction.
All right, I'm going to quietly head for the library.
Yep.
I've got an 18 stealth.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think anyone would wake to that, because I imagine that'd be like passive perception with disadvantage, unless like someone is determined to try and be awake.
Is the door locked?
No.
All right, I go inside. What's on the table?
So that is what Ayla kind of referred to as the conference room or the conference table. It's where she would sit down with clients or contacts that come in and would discuss what's going on and what they know. And so there's like a few different stray, there's quills and paper and parchment and whatnot. There's also a few maps kind of half rolled up on the table. There are cups and drinks kind of left there as well. But that would be like where she would sit down with someone who comes in. So that's the general vibe of that area.
All right, now I'm going to look through these records for information on Camus.
Okay.
Camus? Camus?
Camus, yeah.
Amos.
Yeah, throw me another investigation check, sir.
Who's trying to piss me off?
Ooh, that's going to be 22.
Okay. So the only part of the library that's like academic reading is that singular corner shelf up in the northwest, and the center is all the kind of like old documents and journals and ledgers and that kind of thing. And so taking a few of those out, setting them down on the table, kind of doing a perusing of them and quickly trying to identify the ones that might not have any meat, you would find probably, I guess, the first or the second ledger. It's kind of unclear of when Camus came in after the previous owner, which doesn't seem to be named as far as you can tell currently. But the first general stint of Camus's control or heading up of this guild, you would see that there was kind of an aggressive push when he first got here, where like there are a slew of contracts done in very quick succession, and they're all kind of like low paying quick ones. There's like maybe a day or two between them, and they stack up for maybe about a month or two. And off to the side on this ledger there would be certain notes about like financial status and the guild holdings and whatnot, and you would see that not all of the debt, but good chunks of the debt are kind of cut off, and there would be little initials besides the, like, a certain check mark, like after like 600 or 700 gold had been paid off, there'd be like LA, check next to that, and then all the way down there'd be another one of like TB check, and so on and so forth, and that would persist all the way kind of to the end of this ledger, and that's, a few months of like really diligent work. Oh, I guess I should probably offer up that this is about 20-ish years ago is when this change took place.
So what I'm gathering from this is that 20 years ago is when the bottom kind of fell out of the business that the Ember Board was getting?
Without finding anything earlier, all you can really tell is that there was a substantial amount of debt before Camus took over, and then once he did, he worked very hard off the bat to clear some of that.
Okay. Remind me, was there anywhere in the building here that we weren't shown on the tour?
There is the storage room off to the east on the same floor as you, that, as far as you're aware, is just a kind of empty storage room where things are thrown. And then there's a storage room down in the northwest corner of the first floor, which is opposite Camus's office. And while they weren't shown to you, you were made aware of them as he was kind of showing you guys around.
I go to Camus's office door.
Okay. Give me a perception check as you're approaching it.
15.
Okay. Yeah, as you are slinking down the hallway, I guess I should make his door closed. There we go. And you're approaching the door, you'd hear like the general slight scuffling of your companions in their bed bunks. Sven mumbling something in his sleep as you approach Camus's door. And as you kind of like press one of your half-elven ears to it, you would hear the sound of like paper being shuffled and general movement inside, indicating that he is awake.
All right. Just getting a sense for the door. Is the door just like all the other doors? Is the lock just like all the other locks? Does it have a lock?
It looks like it has a lock. Whether or not it is locked is unclear, but it is just like every other door in the building.
All right. I darken my lantern and depart the building.
All right. What is your goal, sir?
I'm gonna go to the main gate and check to see if the Plains Elves brought the wounded caravaner in yet. And if they haven't, then I'm just gonna wait there for a while.
Okay. Well, by the time that Quinn leaves, I'm gonna mute Rob real quick while this is going on. There we go. By the time you get all this investigation done and you leave, it's probably, maybe 5 or 6 in the morning at this point. So it would be, whenever you all want to decide to be awake and up and about, this would kind of be the time, I guess.
So Braynoon probably actually got up around like the 4:30, 5 o'clock time. In my timelines, probably while Quinn was upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And when he woke up, he would have made a mental note that Quinn wasn't in the room, but didn't pay much attention to it. And then he was just going to get dressed, and he is going to go out, just kind of looking for someone who's selling fruit and somebody who's selling bread. He just wants to basically get some decent food for breakfast. And so he is not in the building anymore.
All right. So Braynoon is also not here. All right. So Sven and Thomas, it'd be 5, 6, 7 whenever you guys decide to wake up, and both Quinn and Braynoon would not be in your room.
Yeah, assuming that we went to bed around 10 o'clock, which would be kind of normal for school hours. I wake up every morning, like right at about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get up, and I'm assuming I'm still seeing Sven snoring.
Is there sun coming through the window?
Probably just
At 6
the
o'clock?
hint. Yeah, like you're probably just creeping around dawn.
Then no, he is still asleep.
Okay.
Yeah, so just kind of the normal morning routine. I get up out of bed, make my bed, and said Mr. Sparkles would kind of be milling about, and nobody would see it at this point, but Thomas would cast an illusion of, kind of in succession, of his sister, and then his mom, and then his dad, and just kind of hang out with them and kind of talk to each of them in turn. And then it's breakfast time, probably. I'd go outside to tell everyone that I was going to make some more oatmeal, and there would be nobody there. So
Yeah, as you go to check, you would see Ayla entering the building for her morning as like dawn is just kind of breaking, and she would see you kind of like turn the corner, give you a little wave as she's pepping up over to her desk, ready to begin her usual routine.
yeah. So assuming that I'm only cooking for 2, I'll get a couple of bowls of oatmeal ready for myself and for Sven.
Mm-hmm. Sven, how late would you try to sleep?
I figure 7 at minimum, because by that point the sun has actually risen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once that kind of starts to bother him is when he'd be like, okay, fine. Yes. And as soon as he's up, reflecting upon the previous few days, would begin his morning ritual and go ahead and swamp out some of his spells. This will be useful today, and actually studiously run through the numbers and figures. Oh yes, that's right. Hands like this, and kind of get that fixed up before he even rolls out of bed.
So I guess we'll hop over to Quinn. As you make your way down to the gate that you imagine you went through and probably the nomadic people would have arrived at, the guards there are not the guards that were there previously, but they obviously have general ideas of what's going on, and they would pretty quickly offer up that the broken elf or the broken dwarf and the nomadic elf dropped off Boma at some point later in the evening or yesterday at some point, probably a little bit before you all had arrived, and is supposedly at the Point of Remembrance Hall, which is where Cole was being treated initially. The guards that were on duty had sent for someone to retrieve him and bring him there. And as far as you're aware, the nomadic elf just kind of left after leaving him at the gate.
All right, then I will head there to check in with him, check up on him.
Okay. And then, Braynoon, you're acquiring a decent breakfast. Is there anything, I guess, in particular besides like fruit you're going for?
So my goal was to get some fresh stuff to bring back to the guild.
Okay.
And so yeah, just looking for. I'm assuming early morning. There's probably some stalls set up or something that are selling that sort of thing. And so just looking to get whatever is in season fruit, and then a loaf or two of bread, and intending to head back.
Okay. What are you prepared to spend on such a extravagance?
I mean, I'm not really worried about the coin. And so, I mean, given that I had no problem throwing 2 silver to a silver or 2 would be nothing.
Okay.
I'm not worried about.
Yeah, we'll go with 2 and give you like a bundle of, nicer things to eat for breakfast.
And I will take that back to the guild hall.
Alright, let me toss you back on here. Well, yeah, so I guess, we can either cover guild stuff or the Point of Remembrance Hall stuff, based on what you guys want to try and do.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to keep varying timelines in somewhat order to think of like when Quinn would have made it to the gates, and if he was going from there to.
Yeah, I mean, when you're
Remembrance
arriving
Hall
back
and-
with food, it's probably about the same time he's getting over to the hall. So they'd probably be happening roughly the same time.
Except he was going to Remembrance Point, correct? He wasn't coming back here. Yeah, okay.
He went to the gate and then went to the hall. So I guess we'll go ahead and do that while you guys think of exciting things to do and return to the guild hall. Let me go ahead and drop you all back in Messidore. Ta-da! All right. So, as previously stated, the Remembrance Point Hall is the one kind of on the coast facing off towards the Dawn Tree. And Quinn, again, you would get that very awe-inspiring view of the Dawn Tree as dawn approaches, this kind of strange rainbow-esque light kind of glittering through it and casting itself across the city. It is a very pleasant walk, and it's clear as you're moving through Old Town that a fair amount of the populace there kind of like treat the morning or the dawn with some sort of like reverence or some sort of routine. Like they come out for morning walks, or they're kind of gathered to have like morning like conversations or discussions, either like enjoying the general aesthetic of their city basically. But you would shift through those streets and then back to the kind of communal temple that you would approach, I guess 6 days ago at this point. As you step forward, the usual kind of bustle going around in that open area, there would be the greeters on the edge of the building, kind of like watching you approach expectantly with their tray kind of out in their hand.
Oh, that again. Uh,
Just stealth past them; they'll never notice.
actually, that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
I'm going to look for a group that's going through, and see if I can just blend in at the rear of the group, Assassin's Creed style,
Clasp your
and get
hands, put your head down.
and get through and get through that way.
Right.
At this point, like almost like an exercise
Mhm.
more than anything else. Just got to stay sharp.
I'm not gonna make you roll because it's not like they're sitting there with like, flashlights and hound dogs. Like they're expecting donations, but they're not gonna beat you to death if you don't give one. But you could slip in basically unnoticed. There's enough people kind of moving through, and you would be greeted with that same scene of the large room that's kind of sectioned off for different means. It's clear that like the communal breakfast is kind of being prepared and somewhat served as like the tables are kind of filled with a whole collections of different kinds of people. But off in the corner is the infirmary, which has a splattering of people on the bed, kind of the workers kind of shifting through them, supplies being kind of moved around, and that would be the scene you were in, sir.
So I'm going to head to where the guards mentioned.
Mhm.
Start asking around. Try to locate this poor guy.
So as you approach one of the employees who's very graceful and polite in every encounter, kind of like nods along and then gestures kind of towards the far back of the infirmary, and you would see the shape of two dwarves, one laid out on a bed that is clearly in a rough shape, another one kind of sat beside him, his like arms kind of resting on the edge of it. He still has a bandage wrapped around his head that you can quickly identify as Koval, but your two dwarves in questions are kind of tucked back there.
So I don't say anything as I approach. Just not actually trying to be stealthy this time, but polite.
Hmm.
I don't want to interrupt their conversation. Just sort of walk into that, enter their bubble, and wait.
So as you approach Koval, it's clear that he's speaking or like kind of muttering under his breath, but Boma is not. Boma is very much not here currently. He's the arm that has been destroyed has been bandaged and properly kind of addressed, but he is certainly not conscious in the current moment. But as you step up and kind of linger on the edge of his perception for a little bit, eventually Koval would kind of like lean back to stretch out his back, having been like hunched over the bed for a long period of time, kind of catch you go. Uh, you're one of them, yes?
That's right.
Uh, he like gets onto his legs. You see him like kind of shaky. He has to like put one hand on the bed to kind of keep himself steady. But he like waddles over to you and just like immediately kind of like takes you into a big hug. Just like wrapping his arms around your waist, kind of resting his head against your, I guess, thighs or whatever level he brings up to. And just like doesn't sob, but just holds you there for a moment. Like clearly like so incredibly grateful before he kind of like looks up, craning his head back. He's like, uh, I can't. Your reward, yes. And he kind of like starts waddling back towards his like backpack resting besides the bed.
So I sort of stiffen up, but I accept the hug. And if anybody walks nearby, just kind of look at them like, yeah, yeah, this is happening. And I sort of proceed as if I didn't even hear him mention reward, and
Mhm.
just say, how is he? He's lucky to be alive. I mean,
Kind
I'm
of
not
like
a doctor, but
he pulls out this like sack and he's like starting to take coins and like counting them. And as he's counting, he's like talking, and it's clear that he gets like confused for a little bit, slips the coins back in, starts counting again. But he's just like, I when they brought Boma back in, I was amazed. Well, I was terrified. I thought that he was dead, and then they told me that he wasn't, and they were telling me about spiders or something, and all his insides are messed up. But the good elves, they were cute. Oh shit! He starts like trying to count again as he's lost track another time, but I spoke to him yesterday slightly after they told me that I could sit beside him, and he was telling me about the horrors of the ogres and the stench and the companions that we had that didn't make it. But he was talking about a big Z. I think he said that the ogres were talking about a big Z they were going to sell to Big Z. And I haven't heard much more about it. He hasn't been awake yet today. But he was telling me about how you saved him, how you brought him out and brought him to the road, and he rode with the elves. It was very exciting. I can't. It kind of like reaches up, completely forgetting that he's counting again, and he just like very gently like strokes his hand over Boma's beard, just like pushing a few of the like stray hairs back into place, and then kind of like gracefully like cupping a hand over the top of his head, just like with the most tender care. Like Boma still is like incredibly malnourished and dehydrated. Like he's like part skeleton still at this point, but he is just gingerly appreciating that this man is still alive, and turns back to you. He's like, I can't tell you how much that I thank
I
you.
hold a hand up and say, I'm just doing our job. I'm wasn't really expecting him to be here yet. The elves of the plains did good work.
Well, it sounds like she, what was her name? Kayla? It doesn't matter. Well, I guess it does matter. But she brought him here, and then they brought him to the hall. I don't know, but it sounds like it was close. I guess he doesn't look exactly healthy.
I'm glad that you didn't see him when we found him. Well, like I said, he is lucky to be alive.
Well, if I wasn't so old, I would have been out there with you. I would have found him, but kind of like reaches up and grabs the injury, and it's clear that it's like the physical wound is mostly healed at this point, but the mental issues are still kind of kicking around. He just kind of like presses the injury, and it's like, but perhaps my my traveling days are done. Maybe Boma's as well. Oh, Boma, kind of just like touches him again, just this like constant stream of just like, oh my god.
Well, all's well that ends well.
Did the Carquin family, did they give you your reward?
They were going to send somebody over to the guild, as far as I know.
Good. And he's like finally kind of getting through his coins, and you see him like do the last clink, and then reach into his pouch and do a little like, and then like tip it over, and then there's just like a blush and then a flush of embarrassment across his face, and he looks down at his hand. He's like, I must have donated some of the reward when I came back in yesterday. I only have 54.
Still sort of like ignoring that part of the conversation, although I do hold out my hand. But I say, what will you do now?
Kind of like gingerly places the coins in your palm, gotta make sure none of them spill. I don't really know. We're not getting paid for our trip because of. And Boma told me not to buy the insurance, which I'll give him hell for when he wakes up. I don't know.
How much would the insurance have been?
what it would have covered the cost of the cart and the horse and the goods. Bomber was the numbers man. It would have been 200, 300 gold pieces, I think.
How much do I estimate the whole wagon was worth?
Not having seen the actual like site of the attack and only going off of like the goods that you found, you could assume that it was probably like a full wagon and like horses, because of having 5 people kind of traveling in it. And then the goods themselves, like he's probably really lowballing it, whether that's due to the injury or trying to be modest or having absolutely no clue what things are worth. It's kind of unclear, but he's probably maybe like halfway there, if that.
Where would you have purchased the insurance from?
What the families or council representative in I can't remember where we set off from. It starts with an it doesn't matter. There are merchant way stations and there are council administrators that offer it, and you would go through them.
Sounds complicated.
That was Boma's job. I'm the navigator, or I was the navigator.
I look around the space for a piece of paper or parchment.
Okay. You could probably like lean on one of the passing employees who's like has the clipboards that they're kind of filling out, that you could snag some from there.
And I take it back to him and I say, if this is just a formality at this point, really, but the Ember Boar Guild is the name of where we work out of, and we're just now trying to get things, get back on our feet over there. And, well, the guild master is kind of a hard ass, and he wanted to make absolutely certain that we spelled your names correctly for the record of this job. So if you could just write down your name and his name on this paper,
Mm-hmm.
so that we make sure that we have the correct spelling, and then I'll leave you.
I'm gonna make him do an intelligence check. Oh.
What are you up to,
He
James?
rolled a natural 1.
What does he not know how to spell? What?
So he doesn't misspell his name, but it is like watching a child run into a brick wall several times in a row. Like he takes the piece of paper and he takes the quill, he stares at it for just an excruciating amount of time. Like your fingers beginning to itch, like it's a K, starts with a K, like come on, and he's just like reaches down and like gently and like does a K and like contemplates on it for a little bit. And then an O. And it would take an incredibly long time, like minutes of him writing it out, but he would eventually write down both of their names, which is Kovel Coinshin and Boma Ravenbeard.
I bid him good day and go to wherever the things that he described basically go to wherever one would go to purchase that insurance.
Okay. Are you just trying to kind of find it, or are you gonna like asking around? What's your general approach to that?
I'll ask a guardsman. I'll ask a green hood.
Okay.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah, I think that's a simple enough transaction that they would. There are the four separate families that kind of do separate things in the city, but there is the main representative, and that is the Venoir family currently, and they are in charge of kind of the centralized infrastructure. And so there is you can see it on the map pretty cleanly, that kind of strange. Is my ping working? There we go. Square building with the circular center. That is like the government building, or like the capital building, for lack of a better term, of the city, where a lot of the main things kind of happen, and that would be where you'd have to go. So they point you off in that direction, but we'll get back to that. But to the Emberbore Guild, where you all are, I guess, getting your morning underway without your dear Quinlan. But Brandon, you'd come back with proper food. Thomas, whether or not you use that to assist your meal, kind of up to you all, but
It would depend when he got back. I mean, if
I mean, in my head, I guess I don't know how long it would take me to do that, but if I left at like 4:30 and you got up at 6, then
yeah, I think we could match those up pretty easily.
yeah, I'd come in and put most of it into the kitchen. I'd offer Ayla any fruit if she wanted any as I came through, but
Do you have any sea berries?
do I have any sea berries?
Odds or evens?
Odds.
You do indeed.
I would pull out I don't know if they're like grapes and bunches or if they're in little cartons or what, but
They almost resemble like blackberries to a
Okay.
certain extent.
I'd pull out a carton or whatever they were in and just place it on her desk as I walked by and put the rest of it in the kitchen.
She kind of like picks up one as you're like running. She's like, I never got the spelling for your name.
What wasn't it on the contract?
Well, yes, but I do like to double check things.
BRENUN DRURUNANTH.
Yes, of course.
And I would take the rest from the kitchen and
Yeah.
offer any to Thomas. I'm assuming there's quite a bit that I got for 2 silver. So
Yeah. You have like a whole bundle of stuff.
right, yeah. And then I'd slice up some bread and make myself breakfast.
I'd probably take a small handful of sea berries and chuck them into oatmeal.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys in there. Sven, are you up doing your thing?
Yeah, I mean, he has to get ready for the day, so making sure his unseen servant is there to assist him with all things be very necessary.
So as you are going through,
Well, real quick, just I'm assuming we'll have a moment to eat while we're in there. Brennan, I just was. I was wondering how you did it. See, I'm really homesick, and I know that you're married and you have kids, and you being away on the ship for so long. How do you get used to it? This is as long as I've ever been away from my family, and I knew it would be hard, but not this hard.
Well, not entirely sure how to answer that for you. You have to take into account that I spent the better part of 50 years living on ships. I had nowhere but my bunk to call home. And when I did finally settle in Central, that was my home. But, I mean, it's probably a little bit difference of perspective. That's...
Well, okay, but maybe like go back to like 200 years or so when you were a kid, and then when you left your family for the first time, how did you do it?
I joined the Navy.
Oh,
I, I, eventually, you just kind of get used to, I suppose. I mean, my dad was in the Navy as I grew up, so I mean, he wasn't around a ton, and you just learn how to make the moments you have good memories, and
yeah,
the time in between is the time in between.
Oh, okay. Well, I do this, and I'll make an illusion of my sister,
Mhm.
and if I remember right, can I remember what his wife looked like?
Give me history with disadvantage.
Please offend my wife early in the day.
No, actually, having thought about it, and it was one of those weird threads of fate that a woman I had met in college, now I'm with her husband.
Mhm.
And so that's something that's been on my mind more than once since learning that. And um, just the mystical abilities in his mind just coalesce, and we'll call that a 20.
Okay. As you build up this representation of his wife, it is, Brainoon, to you, very clear that this isn't like an exact replica. It's much, the way to define it is the features of her are kind of vague and distant because it's probably the view that Thomas had
Right.
when he saw her. But it's certainly close enough that you instantly recognize it. And there is that weird, like, rush of, like, oh, my wife. And then you're like, oh, I'm in the Ember Boar. Ah,
Right,
what
yeah.
lovely days. Yeah.
That's just an illusion. That wasn't really her. But
I'm familiar with illusions.
well, yeah, of course. I mean, you would be. I mean, obviously, with her being a mage. But I guess all I'm saying is, if you ever get lonely and you want to see your wife, I can bring that up whenever you like.
When you mentioned getting lonely, Brainoon is kind of this look comes over his face, a little bit more serious. That's why I keep a journal. I write letters to my wife, to my children, as a way to stay connected to them.
That's a great idea. I do too. But not every day. But well, on the ship, I wrote one every day. So that's going to be weird when I send it to them, because that'd be quite a dump of information. But well, anyway, I don't know. I guess it helped. Thank you.
That's everyone has to decide how to deal with loneliness their own way. And so what works for me probably won't work for you, but I'm also a little more practiced at it.
Yeah, well, I guess if I ever get to be 200 years old, I'll be good at it too. I probably won't, though.
Not sure
I
I'm
think-
good at it, but I figured out what works for me.
Thanks for buying that stuff. The food here is kind of boring.
Well, I'm sure it's mostly just Camus feeding himself, and he probably
It's
doesn't
pretty boring.
mind.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
As you mention your glorious leader, you would kind of hear him walking down the hallway, and he would just kind of peer into the kitchen, kind of give you both like a weird, like a passing glance, where he turns attention into the bedroom and spots you, Sven, kind of morning purple.
There would be kind of like the lingering edges of like the haze in the room as Sven just looks over. Oh yes, morning.
I see that you are prepared.
I never go anywhere without Therabin, pointing towards the vaguely humanoid shape in the smoke next to him.
Ah, yes, I couldn't spend a morning without pustule. Just kind of points at the ground.
How quaint.
Purple, have you eaten yet today?
No, attending to my beauty sleep, but I'm sure Thomas has something prepared, and kind of tries to look over Amos' head towards the kitchen.
As you approach him, he kind of just like looks you up and down, and you certainly stand a fair bit taller than him. But he like reaches forward with his hands, kind of like grabs your robes, just kind of like traces his fingers along, kind of feeling the material. You just see this kind of like, as he's like kind of smoothing it out, patting it down, and this gives your chest like a little. When you're finished eating, I need to do debriefs with all of you, and we'll start with you first, Purple.
Yes, and if you were wondering, it is 12,000 red count.
Just walks off back towards his office.
You know, sauntering.
What's the range on Mage Hand?
Like 30 feet, is it?
Okay, I'll float the oatmeal over to Sven with some berries in it.
Sven will reciprocate with his mage hand and out it over. Oh, thank you, Thomas.
Don't mention it.
You even added berries. Where'd you find the berries I was looking for?
He was kind enough to buy them, pointing to Braynon.
Raynun, a man of culture, I see.
Man that appreciates things that have flavor. And under his breath, you hear, and no onions.
So, hopping back to Quinn, I guess how involved you want to get? I'm assuming you're going to whatever, like, insurance representative or handler there is, right?
I just want to find the place, grab a blank form, or find out whatever the process is that concludes in a piece of paper, and get one of those.
Okay.
And then forge their names onto the form, and then stake the place out until I figure out who is a courier that is coming to and from the building. Arrange for that form to end up in the courier's possession, and then go back into the building to let them know that it's time to pay the claim.
So it might be a little bit more difficult than you think. It's pretty easy if you just kind of linger around enough to kind of get the process going, that you would need the paperwork that they initially signed wherever they began their journey. There'd be some sort of sealed mark of them initiating it there, and then they would have been given some sort of like second half or some sort of agreement that also has a seal on that as well. And then a copy or whatever would have been sent or forwarded or sent with a messenger of some sort to then transfer here to have like records in both places. So the biggest hurdle you would overcome is you don't have that seal for the other location that they came from.
I just want to see how far I can get without the seals, and just go. If I'm not the one that brings the paper in, and they find the paper and they say, "Oh well, there's a problem here. It's missing the seal," and then I can act like, "What do you mean it's missing the seal? How did you fuck this up? I don't have time for this. You better you better backdate it and get it, because the Carquin family wants to get this over with and move on. This has been a nasty bit of business, and we're all just trying to clean up the mess. So stamp it, backdate it, let's go."
All right.
I do feel the need to interject for the viewers. Insurance fraud is a felony of the 3rd degree. Just BT dubs.
Yeah, because we never touch on anything illegal in this game. Okay,
I like
so
like murder and
but as soon as we touch on insurance fraud, we need the PSA.
Oh hell no!
whoa. Insurance. Wait a minute. Don't fuck
Mhm.
around.
So, okay, here's what I am offering to you, sir. I'm probably going to ask for a sleight of hand check to try and gather the necessary forms and whatnot that you might need. Probably a deception check for making a accurate copy or forgery of the document that you're trying to produce.
All right.
And then probably again another deception check to then sell it as a missing piece of paperwork. Does that sound fair?
That it's their fault.
Okay.
Right.
Get them
Yeah.
to finish the job for me because they
Okay.
screwed it up.
So
And
give me
you-
those
you
rolls.
really want me to go back to the Carquets and say that you didn't finish the paperwork for the insurance claim on this wagon? All right. Sleight of hand.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2.
All right. That's certainly sufficient.
Deception. That's going to be a 16
Okay.
and another deception. Nat 20, 27.
All right.
He's
So-
good at that.
Yeah, it's like you did it for a living or something. There's enough bustle going on in the morning, clearly, like this is when all of the claims that have kind of built up through the previous day are kind of dealt with as they open up their doors. You use that to your advantage to slip into places you probably shouldn't be for a few seconds to grab papers and quills and markings that you potentially need, and then slipping back out of the building once you've gathered the necessary information. You put to work your best attempt at producing a forgery. It is rather difficult because you don't quite know what you're trying to mimic because you don't have like a piece of paper from a representative from there, and you're just kind of winging it, hoping that giving it the right approach, you can sell it well. Spending a fair amount of time on that, eventually kind of looking it over, and it's the best I'm going to have for now. You step back into the building, and there are people, shouting and running around. There are obviously like lackeys or underlings running through with bundles of paperwork or scrolls or fresh parchment that they are passing around different workstations and desks. You kind of lean up against the wall, watching this small section of the building where it's kind of like a smaller hallway that connects two of the main work areas, and there's tons of foot traffic going back and forth, and you're kind of eyeing it, getting the general routine and time frame in your mind. And as no one's kind of looking, you step forward, take the parchment that you had forged, and just tuck it into like a crack where like the tile meets the wall, where like if something kind of fallen against the wall, it would have just stuck there. And it's out of the way enough that people would just kind of walk past it without thinking. And then you step back, kind of waiting, and you watch a few employees pass by, and eventually one is stepping through. You just kind of gesture at it, and he looks down at it like, and grabs it, starts flipping it open, like, how long has this been here?
I don't know. I just noticed it there.
He just like jams it in the bustling amounts of papers he has, and then just takes off.
So to give that time to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and then with ears displayed, go make sure not to talk to any of the same people that I may have interacted with the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and then run the scam.
Okay. This is
Exactly what I said. Just
yeah.
it's how to pay the claim. What do you mean it doesn't have a stamp? It's been in your possession. It's in your records.
Okay. Here's what I'll tell you. It's gonna be a high DC, but I'm gonna give you advantage because you've put in the legwork. So it's up to you. I will say that if you fail, it might be messy.
What's the skill?
Probably deception is what we would lean on.
Let's do it.
All right.
With advantage.
30.
25.
Okay. All right. Yeah, as you bring the unstamped form, there is a lot of pushback. The woman that is at the desk, though she is kind of like overwhelmed with a lot of other queries kind of going on, she takes the time to be like, "Sir, you can't turn it in like this. We can't accept it like this." And it is back and forth and back and forth. And she is like just about on the edge of like calling some sort of security or guards or telling you to basically piss off before there's just this like brief interaction with you where you both make eye contact and she's made abundantly aware that you're not leaving and she makes it abundantly clear that she's not leaving, and there's just this and she like puts the paper down and starts like what was the value you were attempting to claim?
So based on my armchair appraisal, I'm gonna double the value he gave me when I asked him at the hospice. So I think that was gonna be.
He guessed 200 to 300.
Let's split the difference and say 500.
Okay. She would finish signing it, kind of doing all the documentation, and she would go, "Ah, such a shame that the payout only qualifies for 400.
They'll just have to make do.
And she like reaches under her desk, starts like clinking out actual platinum versus gold at this point, kind of skimming them out and then placing a sack like, "Next."
Let's try to make sure this doesn't happen again, and then turn on my heels and get the fuck out.
Okay. You have your money, sir.
Oh, I'm gonna go take it to the fellas in the hospital
Okay.
and say, "Oh, I
Expecting that to come back to the guild hall.
I'm gonna take it to them and say, I guess you filed for the insurance after all. Must have slipped your mind."
So as you make it back to the guild hall, do you donate? Or not the guild hall, the remembrance point hall.
Oh, sure, this time.
Hey, there we go. How much do you donate?
1 platinum.
No, 1 silver.
Okay. They would very eagerly accept it as you make your way in. Boma would actually be awake at this point as Koval is kind of sat beside him and they're muttering very quietly to one another. As you approach, Koval kind of like catches you. He's like, Boma, it's him, the hero. And then he like starts like shaking him awake, and Boma's like, no, the hero had horns.
No heroes here, just a delivery boy.
Koval,
And I just kind of dump it and dump it in front of them.
as you dump it,
One-
one of the like passing by healers like stops and looks over, goes, and just keeps walking.
And exactly what I said. Turns out you filed for the insurance after all. There was some discrepancies with the paperwork. I don't know what they're doing over there in their records department, but next time, make sure that you dot the T's and cross the I's.
Koval's just like, as Boma's looking down at it, and he's like very weak still at this point, like barely moving, just a minimal amount that he possibly needs to. And as he's eyeing the coins, you see him kind of lift his gaze up to you, and there's that quick like acknowledgement between you two as Koval's like, no, we didn't pay for it. We must return this. He starts like scooping it up, and Boma just like reaches a hand out and like rests it gently on Koval's shoulder. He's like, no, I put in the insurance before we left. and just kind of looks up at you like a...
Like you said, he's the numbers dwarf.
He kind of like grabs both. You fucking amazing man.
All right, take care, you two.
Well, we just came by a bit of wealth. Let me make sure I give you your reward. And he starts looking at the platinum, and he's like trying to
You-
figure out how to do the change.
You did that already. First time I was here.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
Don't thank me. Just doing the footwork.
But yeah, they would go back to their huddled conversation as you depart. All right.
I'll go back to the guild hall and on the counter on where Ayla works in the front, I'm gonna just dump 22
Okay.
22 gold pieces.
Well, so you're yeah, okay. Are you trying to do half or less than half?
I was trying, let's see, so 53 divided by 54.
54, yeah.
All right, hang on. Calculator.
It would be
27.
27.
27.
Minus 6. Okay. No, that's wouldn't be 6 gold. I'll short them 1 gold piece. So I'll give her 26 and keep 28.
Okay.
Rather than worrying about change, I'm just gonna give myself like 500% interest on the money that we had to pay the rancher.
All right. So as you return, it'd probably be a fair amount of time past breakfast. Camus would have called Sven into his office to do the debriefing, which I imagine you would participate in, sir.
It was glorious, yes. And so proud of
Seth,
him.
your mic is like not picking you up. I don't know if you have to move it closer or whatever, but try there.
Maybe a little bit better right there.
Try it again, and I'll turn you down.
No, yes, it was glorious. Thomas threw out some webs, and then the other two, Brandon, quite a smashing gentleman, if you know. Lieutenant, to them, it was delightful. And then, oh my goodness, these little mushrooms. And like, he'll go on, and definitely not if I'm using the term correctly, not a congruent story. It's very tangential.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll start on an idea, it will veer, and then he'll eventually round back. And so, like, the general idea gets across,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not a point A to B type of story.
Okay. I imagine you're not lying to him in any means. You're just telling Sven's story, right?
Well, yeah, he was very heroic. God, oh my goodness, what the peasant work. It was so much fun.
So since we haven't discussed it too much, when you are in Camus's office, it is a very small room. It's not anything extravagant. It's, fairly modest. His bed is like right beside his desk that clearly is like never made. It's just in a constant state of I just slept in it, basically. There are a few shelves with books, but there's clearly a large shelf behind him full of empty tankards that just kind of becomes a collection as he's working. His desk is more disorganized than Ayla's, as there's just like papers and books kind of spilling out over the edges. But he has a few different chairs for you to sit in as he sat behind his desk, and he would just kind of let you speak for as long as you needed to, explaining your very rambly, veering path of chain of events. And he would, stop to take notes a few different times, but more or less just kind of nod and nod and nod, and then eventually once you reach your conclusion, well, sounds like your fruity experience assisted. Good on you, Pointy Purple.
He'll pull out the ogre nose and mess well. The spy knows best. And he will laugh uproariously at his own joke.
He just points a quill over the desk. He goes, Purple, Rule 1.
Yes, don't die. We succeeded.
Please go get Pointy. He just points you out of his office.
Au revoir. And he'll saunter on out. And Thomas, yes, Camus wants to talk to you.
Oh, am I in trouble?
Yes, for being such a good little soldier. Well
Oh.
done, Thomas.
Oh, you had me worried. I thought I was in trouble. Oh, okay. Do I look all right?
Kind of smooth off your robes a little bit. And
Mm.
I've told you to use the horn polish. I really wish you would. But
Uh,
no, you will be fine, Thomas.
Should I use it now or? Okay, I gotta go.
No, go.
And so I'll knock on Camus's door.
Mhm. It would more or less be the same process, unless you're attempting to deceive him, which again, I'm assuming you're not. But he would ask for your chain of events. He would sit there and kind of take notes and kind of keep an idea of what you're generally saying. And that would be the length of the conversation. There's something specific you were trying to touch upon.
I mentioned it to Ayla, but we were only able to recover 88% of the. Well, I told you too. So we'll still get full pay for the job.
As long as they're content, then yeah, we'll get the payment. I imagine it will come today.
Okay. That was a bit harder of a job than I was expecting for our first job. I mean, I read up on ogres, and I honestly didn't expect that would be what a new group such as ourselves would be encountering. Is it going to get harder than that, or can we expect the same difficulty, or do we get a little bit of a break, or because I'm really trying to obey the rules and not die.
I'll put forward that killing your enemies in their sleep is a lot easier than killing them when they're awake, so I wouldn't get too big of a head that you slayed 2 ogres.
No. I didn't mean that at all. I'm quite aware of their prowess if they were at 100% and perhaps even grouped up together. The both of them together, I'm pretty sure we would have died horribly. And I'm just saying that we couldn't have expected that they'd be asleep, and that is it going to be normal that we're going to find them together like this before or after? Are there going to be more jobs that are maybe a little bit easier? I was expecting more things like maybe finding more dogs or something.
There are certainly easier jobs. I remember you, or your group, which you fuckers still need a name, taking the ogre contract over the necklace contract, so you might want to choose carefully if you don't want to be slaying things in their sleep.
I kind of was peer pressured into that one because, well, honestly, the man was in danger, so it was something that helped decide the matter. But anyway, I really don't know what the point of all this is. I'm sorry. Is there anything else you need to know? I'm not in trouble, am I?
Do you still have the twig?
What?
The twig. The small piece of wood. The stick.
Yeah.
Yes. Alright, get the fuck out of here. Get me the dwarf.
Okay. Bye. It was a pleasure talking to you, Master Seatree. Goodbye. And
As you're like just about to leave, you're like in the door frame, he kind of clears his throat, and you look back, he just like, you did good, Pointy.
run off. Braymoon and Master Seatree wants to see you and debrief the operation.
Thank you, Thomas.
He said I did good.
Well, you didn't break any of the rules, so... And I will enter without knocking, seeing as I've been summoned.
Yeah, but same process as explained before, kind of ask for your events, write down all the fun stuff, and again, anything that you would want to point out specifically, you certainly can.
Yeah, for the most part, probably especially in comparison to the two he just got done with, he gets a very Cliff Notes brass tacks version.
Mhm.
Not knowing if the other two did, he does mention the run-in with the troop from the Bloody Hearts the day outside of Messidori, mentioning that they attempted to buy us out of the contract so that they could claim it themselves, yada yada. But other than that, probably much less flourish than the other two.
As you mentioned the other guild kind of stepping in, he kind of looks you over and like, and you didn't take 800 gold pieces for it.
Well, agents should always carry themselves in a way that reflects positively on the League, and I do not believe that selling off contracts would reflect positively on the League.
Do you have a
I
rule book
also-
shoved up your ass?
Well, I also think it falls under your rules of not being insufferable and not being stupid, so...
Well, I guess it's lucky that I certainly agree with your choice. Those little pricks can be sneaky little bastards.
I'm not known as one who, when accepting a contract, doesn't see it to fruition, so...
I've a few different times that I've been finishing a contract, they'll come up and try and sweeten the pot, and I imagine that their overall goal is to help keep our business somewhat low.
That was my impression as well.
Well, joke's on them. They don't know that our renown can't get any lower.
I'll keep that in mind.
Well, he would write down the notes that he has for you and then kind of looks you over like, good stuff.
Should I send Quinlan to you when he returns?
Is he even fucking here?
I've not seen him yet today.
I'll find him later. I'm done with you. I'll find him.
And I leave without any note.
All right. I guess at this point, you all kind of have most of the day to yourself, unless you all have a group goal in mind.
Thomas, you had mentioned the Amosel Academy of the Arcane, is that right?
A room bell. There's a lot of things in this town named after a room bell. I will go ahead and give you the spelling so that I don't have to do it multiple times. I should have it. Where is it? Here it is. Amrunbel. And much like if you were in a town where there was like a hero that did some impressive act, which is precisely what this is, there's like a Aroombel township, or the Aroombel shoe polisher, the Aroombel general store. Like, there's a lot of Aroombel stuff. But yes, the Arcane Academy here would be named after him as well.
Okay. At some point in the day, I would like to go over and scope that out. And there's a couple of specific spells I'll be looking to acquire.
Okay. I'll go ahead and, just to make it easier, the reward would arrive today, and obviously you guys would get half, and then however you all want to split that amongst yourselves. I imagine that will be equally.
I would assume so.
Okay. So, you guys got 54 from Koval, which then I think Quinn already split and spread out as equally as possible. Which 26 divided by 4. I should know this.
6.
He kept
No, that's going to be...
28.
He kept 28 total, but he also mentioned he was going to
Gotcha.
pocket some of that as repayment for paying Roland.
But then the 340 would become 170, and 170 divided by 4, because I'm going to do this in cheat. 42.5 gold. So you can do 42 gold and 5 silver to equally divide that amongst you 4.
Not 74 silver.
But yeah, you
So
have that money
42
to...
gold?
Yeah, 42 gold and 5 silver. But you would have that money to mess around with if need be.
And then whatever, about another 5 or so from
Yeah.
whatever Quinn.
Mm-hmm. I think he's
We'll
dividing
see if he,
24 amongst you all, so I think you all also
I
have
think
6
so.
gold on top
Yeah.
of that, yeah.
That was my impression.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember what he paid
Mhm.
Roland. I don't think I have it in my notes.
Roland was 3.
That was 2 silver pieces, but yeah, we can clarify this later. It's all close enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Thomas, you're off to the Academy Arcane University thing?
Well, yeah. Before I went, I would mention to Sven that I was going. Ask him if he'd like to go do some research with me, or see what the academy was like.
I have been planning to go shopping. I'm a little low on regions.
Well, then let's go. Braynon, would you like to go Regent shopping with us, or?
Oh, yes, actually, I wanted to know where you found the food, because our pantry is absolutely disaster.
Well, I would give directions to whatever stall I stopped at, but I've no need for regents myself, so won't hold you back there. Enjoy yourselves.
Oh, I certainly will. I haven't seen a proper library in months.
Ayla kind of looks up and like, yeah.
That's no offense. I mean, you can only hold so much in here.
No, I agree with you, Thomas.
But is there anything that you'd like us to pick up to add to your collection while we're out?
I certainly won't say no to books, but they are an expense that Camus does not enjoy swallowing.
Hey, I mean, what topic are you interested in?
Probably far less magical information or texts, bestiaries or current political issues or records or accounts, general, botany.
Okay, I can do that. You don't have any books on general botany already?
I have a few, but some, things are discovered, things are clarified, things are updated.
Okay. I imagine I probably would have perused all the books and had a kind of would I had a working knowledge of what we've got, so I'm not buying duplicates.
Yeah. I mean, you understand enough that you could not buy duplicates. Like, you haven't read everything, but you have a general gist of
Right.
it.
I've gone down every spine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, Brandon, what are you doing with your day?
So at least the first part of the day, I'm actually going to approach Ayla, and I have a feeling already know the answer to this question, but do we have any sort of inventory of what's in the various storerooms in this place?
Well, it's mostly just broken things.
Right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to make that my goal for now, getting an idea of what's useful, what's not, and maybe we can reclaim a bit of space in this place.
I can assist in record keeping if you do all the labor.
I will let you know what I find.
I apologize for the state of them. They are messy. You're muted.
That's no worries. Nothing to be concerned with.
Well, she would
And yeah,
certainly.
let's
Yeah.
probably start upstairs, just because I assume less things have been thrown in there because you have to go up the stairs. But just sort out what is usable, what isn't. If it's something that might have value, but I don't know, it gets its own pile.
Okay.
So basically a keep, trash, review, and work on that sort of thing, keeping a list of things. And once I'm through with the first or the storage room upstairs, I'll probably move to the one downstairs and start working on that.
Quinn, triumphant return. What are you doing with the free day that you have, sir?
Oh gosh. Let's rob a bank.
I mean, you've been successful so far.
Insurance fraud wasn't enough.
Just to be aware, robbing banks is a crime.
Yeah, insurance fraud is just how you graduate
Right, yeah,
the
that's
second semester of Spy Academy.
the gateway crime.
No. Sorry about that, by the way.
Mhm.
My little prince was throwing a fit like he hasn't thrown in a few weeks now,
Mm.
so
That's a weird nickname for it.
yeah. Anyway,
Quinn, as all of your companions go through the process of having to speak with your lovely and charismatic guild leader, you are eventually tracked down by him once your other companions go about their day, and he would usher you into his office unless you had some sort of issue with that. All right, let me do
No.
this. Okay.
let's do it.
Yoink. All right. So the process that was kind of described earlier is, unless you're trying to lie to him, you can more or less tell me that like you're just accounting events in whatever style that you want. And if there's anything like particular that you would bring up or ask him, that would kind of be up to your discretion.
No, except I would make sure to mention our little exchange with the other dudes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brandon made a point of mentioning that, but he would not align to that and kind of appreciate that there was confirmation. You'd probably pause at the end of your debrief and kind of, what's your assessment of everything? Is it fitting your little perceptive ears?
I'm not sure what you mean.
The group, the guild, the city. I know that you're a bit more familiar with our lovely abode than the others.
Too early to say for the most part, but the first few days seem to have been very successful.
And we don't have to discuss it at length, but I had a feeling that someone was about this morning and certainly wasn't fucking purple. So, did you find what you were looking for?
I am always looking.
We love a vague man.
There's nothing vague about it. It's best practice.
Well,
I'm
usually
always looking.
when you ask someone what they're looking for, they go, oh yes, I found this paper or this information, or I had this question answered. They don't go, I'm always looking.
Well, I didn't have anything that specific. It was really just looking, sniffing the air.
Well, I apologize for my scent, but I'm done with you. You may leave.
And on my way out, I'm going to look for any signs of wards. that I may
So,
have missed.
as you're turning around, there is this kind of like weapon rack, like right beside the door as you first come in, and there is a strange variety of weapons on it, and it's very clear that they are from different lands or cultures or places. Nothing that you can just like kind of casually identify, but you're at least aware enough to know that these aren't like just swords that you go and pick up at the blacksmith down the road. There is a like very, I don't want to say prominent, but easy to discern halberd kind of stretched across the bottom of the rack that has been damaged and broken. And there is a few different like papers and notebooks kind of like strewn around it. And they all have like little scrabblings and sketches of the actual implement itself. But that would be something that kind of catches your eye. There's also a chest that has a pretty sizable lock on it right at the end of his bed that you assume has some sort of contents. And then there are a couple books kind of lining the shelf up in that northwestern corner, and some of them are marked as like, books that are printed and pressed and mass produced that have like titles and whatnot on them. But the vast majority of them appear to be like leather bound journals or notebooks that, potentially were even just like a bunch of papers just wrapped in some sort of leather that was around at the time. So that's a general variety that you can kind of see.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. And then you're going to go, I guess, speak with Ayla, I assume?
Not about anything specific, just hanging out at this point. Like I said, staying close to home after stirring up some trouble.
She would be very interested in talking to you, just kind of like shooting the shit and kind of getting to know you a bit more. I'm not asking anything like too personal, but certainly like being a bit more familiar with you than the others. But yeah, so unless there's anything specific there.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, Thomas and Sven, in your little outing for the day, is there anything you want to take note of?
Yes. Yeah, so Sven would probably acquire or look to acquire some nice wine, like a cask of wine
Mm-hmm.
to be sent over to the guild hall. So I assume that would probably be through a tavern or something. And he'd also be looking out for some drugs and booze. That's, first quest.
So we mentioned earlier that you kind of asked around after your first contract with the imp, and it was somewhat made clear to you that Old Town is kind of the central hub for shenanigans as far as the drug persuasion. So you certainly could head in that direction, try and see what you can scrounge up. A nice bottle of wine you can certainly stop at a few different places to grab, whether it's a tavern or an actual winery of some sort, but that is pretty easily secured.
Okay. What about like a cask of wine? Nice little.
How much are you looking to spend?
We are not on Daddy's money anymore. Maybe about 10 gold.
Okay. Well, you can either get like a really nice bottle of wine for 10 gold, or you could get like a acceptable amount of quality wine in like a cask for that amount.
A shame, just a bottle then.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, what do you got for me for Old Town?
How are you going about trying to acquire the location of these substances?
Yeah, so his main thing is going to be his Tanzia leaf, which is his block of incense that he keeps. So he'd probably go into a tavern, see what's going on this early in the morning. I assume
Are we together?
I would probably not have attempted to shake you. Just like, oh yes, Thomas, we need I need a little bit of something. My incense is running low.
Can we hurry up because we don't want to miss anybody before they. I'm sure that they have work that they've got to do. So we just hurry up, okay?
Thomas, I'll make you a deal. If you can help me with this, I will help fund your escapade with the spells.
Oh,
We are good friends, so I do not mind.
I mean, I'll help you for free. We don't need to barter that way, but let's just try to hurry it up. And I told you, you really should quit using anything stronger than wine out here on the job.
But that's the delight of it. We're off the job now. Time to celebrate. And so, showing like bartenders, I guess, a little bit like, oh yes, I'm looking for some incense. If I can pick up a block.
Give me a general persuasion check.
As I see what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of channel a little bit of energy, and he rolls a 3.
Son of a- okay.
What's the total of that, sir?
4.
That might be my favorite use ever.
Your first little foray into asking about it, you clearly get the sense, even though you're not usually the most observant as far as like a casual overall way, you are pretty good with people. You deal with a fair amount of people. You kind of understand characters to some extent. You can almost read the transaction of, you kind of ask for it, and whoever you talk to immediately kind of pegs you as some sort of like undercover cop. Just due to being a dragon kind, there's this like, oh yeah, the incense. No, I have no idea where to find such a thing.
And after a time ill spent, then spent on Thomas
You-
these
You
backwoods
did-
pumpkins.
Oh, you didn't find what you're looking for?
No, it was terrible.
Oh, well,
Truly, we've landed in hell.
I'd say I was sorry, but maybe it's the the universe's way of just telling you that maybe it's a good time to stop.
Just a quick pat on the head. Oh my dear sweet Thomas, no.
But, all right, so it's time to go to the academy then.
I suppose.
We'll celebrate tonight with some wine.
Yes, well, it was a nice bottle, so.
Oh my God, how much did you spend on that?
I don't know. It's, what, 10 gold?
That is a quarter of our earnings for the job. Like, that's half an ogre.
Well, yeah, and we slayed 2 ogres. So just slay some more ogres. It's so simple.
You should really learn to be more thrifty, because we might have important things to buy one day. But you're right, though. This is a cause for celebration, and just okay. The academy?
Yes, Thomas, yes. Backwoods.
So you all then approach the Arumbel Academy of the Arcane.
So what does this look like in comparison to the spires?
In comparison to the spires, it is like going from like a 4-star, really nice cloth napkin place to like an Applebee's.
Well, this is quaint. I mean, it's well cared for. It's not as big as the spires, but that's to be expected. I mean, that was the center of all magic in Talora, but I'm sure there's many graduates here, and maybe somebody even from our old common house.
Thomas, I mean, from what we've seen of this place already, I don't know. It is rather.
No. It's gonna be great. Come on. Oh, and that, I don't know, it reminded me, but Master Seatree keeps telling us that we have to come up with a name, and the guild is the Ember Boars, and I don't really like the word boar. They taste great, but they're not very majestic. But Ember sounds good. So Ember anything, like the Ember, well, Ember Ferrets wouldn't be cool either, but like the Ember Falcons, I don't know, it sounds, I don't know, what do you think?
I think that a workshop may be needed. I think it's a great idea, Thomas. We should definitely spend the night determining a name.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go. And I kind of tug on his robes, like, this is as excited as Thomas has been in the last couple of months.
Yes,
So,
yes.
a quick comparison: the Spires is like an actual like large campus. Like it could almost be its own city to some extent. There, like every school is well funded and just abundant with research and curiosities and students. The the academy that you're approaching now clearly is less focused towards like actual teaching and research for like pupils and more like a gathering point for the various arcane inclined people of the town, kind of like just having a place to all share knowledge and kind of have a facility and equipment around. It isn't like underdeveloped by any means, but it does very much appropriately fit the kind of station of the city that you find yourself in. Also, being on the eastern coast of Runathosi and very far from the Eternal Thread, magic is not a like absolute essential here. It's not something that is focused on nearly as much as it would be in Central City. So it would be kind of strange stepping into it and kind of finding yourself in a much smaller facility, but it certainly would feel familiar to a certain extent. But again, is there anything kind of specific that you are gunning for?
As we enter, what do we see? What are we encountered with? Who are we talking to? I mean, I guess that kind of drive.
So you're more or less kind of just given free reign. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of like process for bringing people in. It just like people come in and out of here and kind of go in and out of the library and just traverse
So
the general...
it's an academy.
Mhm.
I assume they're teaching.
Yeah, I mean, there's like
So
great halls
I'd
and like
go-
outside like facilities to be doing like experiments and showcases and that kind of thing.
Then I would go. I would want to go to like the registrar's office just to introduce ourselves.
Mhm.
Whatever passes for it. What were you gonna do, Sven?
Oh, I was going to say, seeing Thomas a little overwhelmed with the not quite sure where to go, would probably just kind of snap someone down, whoever looked like they could be easily manipulated, I guess. It could be a student for all it mattered. It's like, yes, library. Where's the library?
This really, really short gnome, even for gnome standards. This thing probably stands like maybe like 1.5 or 2 feet off of the ground. Is like scurrying with like the robes that are certainly not cut to his length, kind of dragging behind him. And as youthful as a gnome can look, which is kind of a strange contrast, is like flipping through this massive tome that's almost like struggling to keep aloft as it's waddling through, kind of catching your attention like, the library. Yes. 3 doors down, on your right, up the stairs, spiral stairs, top floor, and then to your left.
May the thread guide you.
Wait. So there's a library. Do you have a bookstore where you can purchase books here?
Yeah, to speak to the librarian. She can make copies and whatnot, and I guess you could purchase
Oh, that's
them.
fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Eh.
I'm Thomas, by the way.
Yeah.
I told you, Thomas, backwood barbarians.
They are not barbarians. They're scholarly, and they should deserve respect.
They're practically half-casters.
You're just in a mood, probably withdrawal symptoms. Okay, let's go. So I'd head off to the library.
So as you guys go up to the library, it is again much more reserved than the library that you have been accustomed to in your university. There are perhaps maybe like 10 or 15 people kind of milling about, and it is a sizable room that's like 2 layers with kind of a catwalk around the edges to reach the higher shelves. There are plenty of tables in the like middle that clearly people are like dragging large tomes to and pouring through and taking notes and studying for whatever test or experiment they're currently working on. There is this large kind of like central circular desk in the middle of the room that has like a few different attendants in it, and they're, kind of sending books back to the upper shelves with some sort of, mage hand or invisible servant that is organizing things and returning them. There are stations where people are like flipping through and, copying one-to-one whatever texts are being requested. And there's at first appearance, looks like a troll, like an old female troll like stood in the center of this like circular desk area, and she's kind of like reaching over and doing various things with the, I guess, potentially her underlings around her, like flipping pages for them or double checking their work or like shifting one thing to the next workstation, just kind of like keeping an eye. And she has this like thick circular spectacles kind of resting on the large crooked nose. There's no like any sort of hair on her head, but she's decorated in like a very fine and clean and trimmed robe with a few different ornamentations and kind of like a golden sash over it. But that would be the general, I guess, scene that you walk into.
So,
Striding up to said woman, ladyish lady.
Mhm.
Sven would saunter over, kind of lean up on the desk, and good morning, my dear lady. How are you?
Good morning.
My dear friend and I are here in from Central, and we were just wondering if we could peruse your shelves.
Are you guys wearing your backpacks currently?
I would be.
Yeah, I mean,
We, and I would chip in. We just graduated from the Spires, and he's a blade singer, and I come from the school of the
divination.
yes, divination,
Yes.
and we're with the Adventures Guild, the Emperor's Boar, and it's our first week in town, and first few weeks actually, but I'm very excited to see your library. My name's Thomas, and this is Benjamin.
Men of few words.
No, we're actually not. We can talk a lot.
No, Thomas. It was a joke. A wonderful jest.
I am head librarian Vic. If you need anything, you may let me know.
Perhaps. What is it she wanted, Thomas?
Well, that comes to the means to which we procure books. Do we need a card or something? And is there a method to buy books? Do you have a bookstore, or should we have to return any books that we take? Which I would assume you would, because it's a library.
Since you are not a student here, you may not take tomes off the premises, and you do not get the student discount. To copy a tome for personal use, it is 1 gold piece per chapter.
Okay. Could I be like a part-time student and learn something?
That is not up to me, and it is not my end of the academy.
No, I understand. Rules are rules. Is there a bookstore in town that you would recommend over others? Or is there more than one, or is there even one?
There are plenty of places to buy less quality books.
I understand. This is a magnificent establishment, and right.
Thomas, I think I know what we need. Could we simply perhaps see some bestiaries?
Or books on botany.
Both.
Sure.
And have I ever seen a troll before?
I would imagine he's certainly been described to you. Maybe you've seen pictures or like anatomy breakdowns of them in some sort of texts. But in person, probably not.
And from what I gather of them, they're not usually the librarian sort.
From what you gather of them, they're not usually the nice sort.
Right. Would you mind if I asked a personal question?
Are you asking about my appearance?
Yes, and I'm sure you had to answer it more than once, and I'm sorry. And I mean, I really don't mean to judge you on your personal appearance because people do that to me all the time, and I'm not doing that in a negative manner. I mean, I see that you're here in a scholarly fashion,
Please
and I
shut
really
up.
respect that.
This is a library. To answer your question, there was a rather poor incident with reincarnation.
Oh, well, that's amazing. I mean, you
It is
still
not
have,
amazing, I assure you.
No, Thomas,
but
Thomas,
but no,
Thomas.
she has her mind, but you have the regenerative qualities of a troll, the strength of a troll. That
Thomas, no, I doubt it. In kind of a low whisper, I doubt she enjoys being a troll, no matter what.
oh,
It's just.
well, if I find a, I'm sure you researched a way to change yourself back, but if I find one, I'll make sure to tell you.
Sven's gonna start guiding Thomas away. Just, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And
Wow, that was fascinating.
it was, Thomas. It was so incredible reincarnation. Yes. I believe she said these over here were your bestiaries and your
Ah,
botany
yes.
books, and Sven will try and get Thomas distracted with
So,
those.
and it wouldn't be too hard once I saw the books.
Mhm.
There would be no more talking. There would be
So are
for
you
the rest
guys
of the.
going to purchase any copies?
Yeah. So the I would like to find the most inclusive bestiary that didn't seem to match what she's had already.
Mm-hmm.
The same with botany.
Okay. So probably both of those books, because I imagine when you're trying to get a more general one, it's a physical singular book versus like a volume or a set. Uh, go with 8 gold pieces for both of them.
Okay. Um, Head librarian Vic. I don't know if that's your title, but these are the two books I found, and there's 4 chapters apiece. That comes to 8 gold, and I'm assuming there's no negotiating.
She kind of just reaches down and like a child just plucks them with like 2 of her big hands out of yours, or 2 of her big fingers out of your hands, and just like lays them down in her palm, spreads it out, and clearly this job had been kind of delegated to the other people doing it physically, but perhaps due to your demeanor, she has taken it upon herself to fast track this process to some extent, and she just like holds that one up, fishes in this like large sack to her right, pulls out a bunch of parchment, lays it out beside, and just starts like quickly transferring it one to one. You can like see it almost appears like the words are coming out of the volume, printing on the front of her eyes, and then like not spraying but like laying back down onto the blank paper and transferring. And she would just like, no discussion, and just hands them back to you after about 5 or 10 minutes.
That was amazing. How did you do that? Was that a spell that you cast, or do you have some sort of implement that does
Thank
that
you,
for you? On
mistress.
no, 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 no,
You
no.
again? No, Thomas. We have to go talk back to
Ah,
and Quinn was gone, and plus there's one more stop we need to make. You know.
well, thank you. I'd like to talk to you more about how you did that one day because that would have been so useful in class. Do you understand the hours I spent? I mean, really, was it a spell or did you use something?
Leave.
Or did you use something?
Leave.
Okay, bye.
And looking out for his dear friend Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
Sven would make a quick stop at the registrar's office.
Mm-hmm.
To grab, if possible, a list of entry requirements, rules, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if he
Yeah.
can take those with him, he will, It's like there's
a
here's how
brochure
to
and an
sign up.
application.
Yeah.
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 And like list of classes, and then more importantly, like bylaws. Because as soon as he gets back to the guild, he's going to look for loopholes on how to enroll without actually attending a class. In classic fashion of how do I get the credit without doing the work?
Gotcha. All right, that is certainly easy enough. There would be enough like paperwork to kind of hand you to bring that back with you.
No.
So, Braynoon, are you attacking anything specifically?
So depending on how long it takes me to get through that upper storeroom, just with a quick sort, writing down things that I note might have value or have.
If you're trying to like clean it out, it might take you like all day. But if you're just trying to like organize things,
Like I said, the first wave is get things sorted into, Marie Kondo this. This brings me joy. This doesn't, and and just kind of this is worth keeping. This isn't worth keeping. This I don't know about. And that's the first wave for this room. So, but assuming I can get through that fairly quick, I would bring Ayla a list of kind of what I identified as, hey, this is probably worth keeping. And then I actually would like to go out, kind of drawing on the knowledge of the couple days I spent in town before we came to the guild. I want to go to either a blacksmith or a weapon shop of some sort. Just want to pick up a few things.
Okay. I'm assuming all just kind of standard stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to buy a battle axe and a trident.
Okay. So as you kind of do your preliminary organizing of the room, as you return to Ayla, and I guess Quinn, you kind of be in this general vicinity, you'd probably hear this conversation as well. She would explain that the upstairs room is reserved as their guest room, and basically this means like if any adventurers that are part of the league pass by and need to use the guild hall to like rest, there's like basically a bunch of like old sheets and a pillow just thrown in the corner up there, and that's where they can put their head down. So it needs to somewhat stay for that use just in case.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm assuming once I went in there would like that would be semi-apparent, but
yeah, you'd see like the remnants of like people who had sat here and passed the time, or like left knickknacks of theirs that don't really seem of any significance. So yeah, that would be the general vibe you would get. So
okay, yeah. If there's, like I said, anything worth keeping, that is written down, and then I'm gonna run out and run my quick errand, and then start on probably the more traditional storeroom.
Okay. That's all easily done, and you're certainly not going to have any issue finding a blacksmith and getting what you need.
Right.
So, Quinn, is there anything specific you are doing with your day?
I don't think so. I did my big idea.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll probably say, like around 2 in the afternoon, everyone kind of, through their various means, finds their way back to the guild, finishing their task or returning or kind of milling about. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and throw you all in the main room just for that sake, and we'll drag out your good old boy. As everyone is lingering in the main room, Ayla and Camus kind of all gather you and kind of, it's clear, it's almost like your mother and father are kind of sitting you down to have some sort of discussion. Like there's clearly something coming. Camus kind of steps up and, I wanted to give you 2, but I know that fuckhead above me would throw a fucking fit. And he starts like fishing in his pocket, and he pulls out one of the tokens or the lit coins that you all are, I would imagine, you're at least passively aware of. He kind of holds it up and then like looks at all. He's like, whoever wants to take it, but this is your reward beyond your reward for doing the guild proud. Kind of looks at Ayla, and Ayla's like, he just holds the coin out.
Assuming I'm I'm the one closest, I would take it from him. And...
Do you all need a reminder of what that does?
We can get services for it, and we can reduce the length of our contract. And
Oh, Thomas, what did you say?
well, it was one of the things that you could do with it. You could use it to reduce the length of your contract.
I will put forward that it has to be a group decision, and seeing as you all have struggled to even come up with a name, might take a while for you to spend that coin.
I thought we could be the Emperor Falcons.
Kind of looks at the rest of the group.
I mean, because it's the Emperor boars, right? But the boars are kind of the ones that kind of stay around and they root around in the little area. But the falcons are the ones that they fly out and they bring things back. You know, like I don't know, building nests and other bird things. But and they seem really cool too. One of the chess clubs at school, that was their emblem, was a falcon, and I always thought it looked really neat. And I mean, it doesn't have to be the Falcons, but I thought the Ember anything would work because it would link us to the guild, but we could be separate, like our own thing. Okay.
A wonderful workshop idea, Thomas.
Anyway, I wanted to give you all a little bit of motivation, I think is what is required. I have set up a... What is it called? It was a reservation, Camus. A reservation. We're all going to enjoy each other's company for the afternoon.
At a fancy restaurant?
That's a word for it.
Oh, that's great. Because I mean, I know my oatmeal's okay, but it's not really the best, and we could probably use some good food.
Well, unless anyone needs to take a shit, shall we depart?
No, I did that earlier.
All right. And he would just start shuffling towards the door. Ayla is like clearly.
Oh, Ayla. Here. I didn't know what you were specifically looking for, so I got a comprehensive volume on botany of the region and a comprehensive volume bestiary of the region. And if there's something more specific, let me know. It was only 8 gold. I don't know if that's a good price. It was 4 gold per book, so I've never had to buy them before because I always had the library. But
she would take them from you, be like, Thomas, this is wonderful. Books are priceless, and sets them down on her desk.
Yeah, I agree.
Perhaps, Thomas, enjoy yourself. Relax.
I am.
Okay.
Oh, you have no idea. There's a whole campus. I mean, I'm even looking at maybe even enrolling in the academy on my off time here and furthering my studies. And we met a troll who, she's not really a troll. She is reincarnated, and she's a librarian, if you can believe that. So I'm having a great time today. And now we're going to a fancy restaurant.
Yes, that's wonderful, Thomas. That's fantastic. So, as you all begin to leave, it is clear that Ayla is absolutely enthused. This is something that is not commonplace by any means, and she would beeline directly towards Quinn. She would kind of come up, and it's in her normal attire, usually when she's working, very plain clothes, hair's kind of thrown up in a bun. You can see, being rather astute of people that you interact with. She's put earrings in, her hair is a bit, actually like combed and somewhat organized. She's a little bit more presentable. There aren't ink smears all over her fingers. And she's just kind of like, hey, Quinn,
This had to have been your idea. There's no way Camus came up with this.
Camus wanted to bring you to a gentleman's establishment, but I talked him into bringing you to the Bodge. I've wanted to go to the Bodge for a while.
Ears perk up immediately.
I hope it isn't so fancy. I really only have the one outfit right now.
I'm sure they'll let you in. They're not very picky. Well, I guess I hope they are. I haven't been there yet.
Well, I wonder if we'll all be sitting together.
Yes, I got a table for us, and we're on the upper deck. The barge is it was a ship that was left in a dry dock that has been converted into a restaurant, and it's very nice. It overlooks the bay and the sun tree, and if we go in the evening, very pretty. Some might say romantic.
Original. And I'll put my arm out for her to take.
Kind of like just absolutely just living the dream currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone would notice this. But yeah, unless anything else.
How long does it take to apply the horn polish?
If you're giving it a good polish, it takes about 10 minutes. You want to make sure you rub it on right and get it
Get it in the
smooth.
grooves, yeah.
But if Thomas were to ask for assistance from Sven, he knows how to knock that down to about 5, given his multitude of them.
You could dual wield them.
Do we have a few minutes to get ready?
Camus kind of looks back like, I'll go get the table. And he just walks out the door.
Ben, this is my first fancy restaurant I've ever eaten at. Can you help me put the horn polish on?
Thomas, you've made my day. Let's go. And practically drags him.
By the horns. But so unless there's anything beforehand, you all would make your way to the barge. Ayla paired off with Quinn, Sven and Thomas paired off with one another. Braynoon, very confident with himself. As described, the barge is this rather large sailing vessel that has been, first abandoned or potentially damaged and left in a dry dock, and then converted into this rather elegant-looking restaurant. There are these long hanging strands of lanterns as the afternoon kind of turns into evening. There are a plethora of these circular tables kind of spread across the various decks, and they're decorated in very vibrant, kind of striking tablecloths, giving the whole ship, or I guess appearance of this, very not swanky, but comfortable place. There are multiple different types of groups kind of sat around. There are tables for different sizes of individuals, whether they be short or tall. But you all, as requested, had gotten a table up on the it's called something. It's the upper deck, whatever, like where the steering wheel
mezzanine?
would be. Sure.
No,
I'm
that's
not.
not. That's a building.
Braynoon should know this.
Braynoon would know this. And
Yeah.
I, as the player, researched this in preparation for him, but I don't have it in my notes.
Out of character, I am married to a Navy woman. You want me to text her?
No, it's fine. But you would be set up on the highest deck of the ship. There are a few kind of long rectangular tables up there for rather large, like almost community-sized gatherings, and you are set at one end of that. And the general process of like sitting down and ordering food and kind of getting settled would be pretty mundane. Camus would make it clear that whatever you ordered is on the gill, but don't go ordering, like 7 feasts worth of food. But yeah, that would be the kind of scenery that you're placed in for the evening.
Lido deck? Promenade deck? Yeah, I'm curious.
But is there anything specific that you all want to highlight during your celebration?
We should definitely talk about my Ember Falcon idea, which is amazing.
I'm going to get Ayla buzzed.
Oh, Sven would help. If you made it at all obvious you were plying her with alcohol, you would be like, well, I did.
I'm not sure Quinn does anything, obviously.
I wouldn't say it's obvious, but I mean, the drinks, do keep coming.
One of those, her drink is never quite empty type of thing.
Okay.
And Thomas this might be a night that he indulges a little past his normal.
Thomas,
You
you
want-
can handle 2 glasses. I am certain of it.
I might even go for 3.
Oh my goodness.
You want to give me a
The
con
threat
save for
behold.
flavor's sake?
Sure. Oh, fuck. That's a 4 plus a 3. That's oftentimes 7.
All right, yeah. Thomas is certainly the lightweight, and you can lean on that however much you want. But- So at some point, perhaps like an hour or two, it's like the meal's almost kind of winding down. You're always kind of picking at your various plates, and everyone is like kind of leaning back, doing the whole like, oh yeah, like the engorged, nice dinner kind of feeling. Camus would all look around at you, and it is very clear that from the first drink to his last, and he has not been going easy, his demeanor has not shifted an inch. Like, he is very confident in his ability to drink, but he'd look you all over like, well, do you all have a mission, a goal? What's your general idea moving forward?
I think that we shouldn't die.
Yes, Thomas and I have for 2 years according to contract. So survive?
I would like to propose a toast to Master Seatree. And
And
Yeah.
yes, here.
well,
Raise a glass and make sure to make Ayla toast with me.
Camus would kind of look around. He wouldn't participate in the toast, but he would kind of nod his head. He's like, well, that's just the sweetest thing anyone's done for me ever. Brings a tear to my eye.
Well, this is the first fancy restaurant I've ever eaten in, and the lamb and leek soup was amazing, and I'm gonna try and make that one day.
But don't get used to it. Ayla kind of like leans over and kind of like eyes Camus with a bit of a dirty look. He's like, don't get used to it.
I mean, I believe there's other options available.
I just
Well,
thought it was. Yeah.
I don't want everything to be business, but if you all are looking for work, there are more contracts on the board. Ayla kind of like, yes, I put 2 up today.
Okay, well, we're not there, so we can't read them. But what's the general? Oh, the
No, that's a good point, Thomas. Whatever happened to the missing something or another?
The missing necklace?
Not the one with the dog, but was there not
The one
another
that-
one?
The one that
other
we
contract
didn't
we
take.
didn't take.
Oh, yeah, he came in and he canceled it, I think.
Hmm.
He
Shame.
must have found it. So what's gonna be next? Is it more ogres or?
There was a very strapping. Kind of looks over at Quinn. The man he came in. He's a bounty hunter. He was looking for help. Dangerous, very dangerous. Angry little gnome that he's going after. And then there were. I was reading on kobolds. There's a group, I think, harassing a village. What was its name? I can't remember. I'll get it later. You all could handle kobolds. They're right. I mean,
Yeah.
compared to ogres.
That's right. I mean, a kobold is roughly the same disposition, displaces the same amount of volume as, well, at least 12 of them per ogre. So we could probably take on 24 kobolds easy.
Ayla kind of like stops and like looks like gets this weird, sober, serious look on her face, like you're expecting something really profound to come out of her mouth, and she locks eyes with Sven and goes, "Can you kill kobolds, or is that insulting?"
Well, I assure you, I certainly can.
Very good.
I've seemed to forget myself for a second, and I'm like looking down at my food and say, "We can kill the crafted races. Nobody seems to mind."
What did you say?
I'm sorry.
No, I just didn't hear it in real life.
He said, "We can kill the crafted races and nobody minds."
Oh.
Fair enough.
Insurance, fraud, and murder, everyone. There we go.
Our heroes.
Think we got a team name.
Fraud and
Insurance,
murder.
fraud, and murder. One.
But
Oh, Quinn. It's just conjecture because we haven't really spoken of it, but did you happen to check in on Boma?
I did, as a matter of fact. He
He
was.
alive?
He is. The elf of the plains brought him back, and he is alive. He will recover.
That's amazing.
I don't know if they're still going to be in the caravanning business, but the dwarves have been reunited, and all is well.
That reminds me, I need to write down the recipe for the Blackburster antidote. Although, there needs to be some refinement that looked like it almost killed him.
I think it was the spiders and not the antidote that almost killed him.
I know, the effect, that would be, maybe there's a refinement that would just kill them, and they could, but I don't know, that could lead to sepsis. I don't know.
Yeah, probably better that they leave.
Did you tell Ayla about the specifics of how the potion worked?
You know, it hasn't come up.
Thomas, that is hardly polite dinner etiquette. Especially considering how they all crawled out of him.
Yes, you're right. I don't know. But I mean, Ayla, you're interested in. I mean, you read so many bestiaries. I just thought maybe it was something you'd be professionally interested in.
this is a very unprofessional time, Thomas.
I'm sorry.
Do unprofessionalism.
Ayla like shoots her glass up. Camus would also put his glass forward. Well, I thought I'd only be toasting the two of you, but I guess we can praise there's four of you still left. And would cheer with you all.
Huzzah.
So the evening would progress to the point where everyone's kind of winding down from the meal. Camus would be the first to kind of like excuse himself. Clearly not one to enjoy conversation for long, and would disappear off to wherever he's going. Ayla would be rather inebriated and very much attached to Quinn. You all would be done with your meal.
What time of night are we looking at here?
It's like maybe 6 or 7. I think it's pretty late-ish.
Not late at all. Not late at all.
Late for normal
Ah,
people.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Go back and check out the quests?
I'll meet you there. Walk you home.
Ayla's kind of like, I don't think Camus needs me for the evening. Yes, of course.
Do you need help?
No, Thomas, no, we don't.
No, Thomas, you need help, though. Come here, my friend.
Okay, what do I need help with?
When we're getting home.
Yes, you had 3 whole glasses.
I had 4 at the end there.
Did you sneak one in on me? You
Mhm.
rascal.
It was quite good, and I feel like it combined with the leek and lamb stew in my belly is going to make quite a potion later, but
So Quinn,
And
you would...
Raynor, well, what did you do all day? I hardly saw you or Quinn.
Well, did some work around the guild house, went out, procured a few more weapons, and then here.
you have more weapons. How many do you need?
Well, you have to understand that certain weapons are better for certain applications, and so I prefer to be prepared.
Oh. Like, you have the pokey weapons and you have the smashy weapons?
And the cutty weapons.
And the cut.
Blunt weapons
Right.
are better against metallic and hard armor. Piercing weapon is good for
Softer targets.
or getting into the joints.
Yeah, and Thomas, like different, different spells we can use. Wouldn't want to go up against I don't know what elemental firing off ice.
You know, I have to apologize, gentlemen. I don't have I have. Well, I mean, I have magic missile, and it's pretty handy. It never misses, but I really don't have a lot of combat focused abilities. I'm gonna have to buy some more spells, I think, but I did learn vicious mockery. That's something that my sister taught me when I was, or my I'm sorry, not my sister, but my mom taught me when I was really young, and I can. It's the equivalent of smacking somebody really hard with my voice.
You learn that from your mother.
Oh yeah.
As
When
a
you
child.
when you would how
Well-
how did she teach you this, Thomas?
She mostly used it on my dad.
And
See,
like a whole series of things starts to click into place for Sven.
Yep.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're great. They love each other, but he made the nets. I mean, that's why our name is Net Weaver, but he made the nets for the people in our town. It's a fishing village. And he would charge them, but sometimes they wouldn't pay him. And he felt like everyone should have a net so that they could eat. And, well, my mom, she was pretty skilled at mending nets, and she never, ever gave up like a copper piece. And when she found out that he gave away another net, that's usually when I heard it. But that sounds bad, doesn't it?
No, I'm loving it. Please keep going, Thomas.
Well, so anyway, I listened to what she did, and one day at school, I just kind of snapped because they kept pushing me and pulling on my horns and seeing if they wondered if they could yank them off. And one said that he was going to shove it up my, well, and I just said what she said, kind of, and I hit him, but I didn't hit him. You know what I mean? And I got in a lot of trouble for it, but that was the last time that they tried to pull my horns off.
Well done, Thomas.
Oh.
Kind of this faint expression of concerned horror on Brainion's face right now.
But, Quinn, are you breaking off with Ayla to walk her home?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then the rest of the group is returning back to the Ember Boar.
Yeah, mostly because I'm concerned for Thomas's safety with Sven.
So, Quinn, as you break off, Ayla will kind of begin explaining roughly where she lives, and it's not too far from the guild, but it's more or less kind of like a studio apartment is the general idea of what you're kind of getting. As you're shifting through the streets, and again, the sun is set and it's beginning to be evening or nighttime, there's, the few amount of people kind of lingering, using your just kind of general always on perception. You kind of keep a general idea of who's behind you, how long they've been behind you, where they're going, even when you're just
Where
kind of
the
like,
exits.
casually engaging in a conversation. You would catch that there is a thing, individual, humanoid shape that's been following you not incredibly closely, but maybe about 40, 50 feet behind you, kind of like mirroring every turn that you take.
I will. Is Ayla carrying anything?
No, she'd be leaned on your arm, I assume.
Okay. I want to look out for something like pretty or interesting or something like that to sort of point at and say, "Ooh, look at that!" And while we're sort of turned looking at it, I want to get a glance.
Okay.
Behind us. No, even better. I've actually at whatever point in our conversation, I'm going to face her, like step around in front of her and face her, and sort of holding onto her elbows, and I'm going to tell her just what an amazing time the dinner was, and it was such a good recommendation, and just really close talking, like something's going to happen, and then look over her shoulder to see who's following us,
So
and then just turn and start walking again.
give me a perception check.
Ooh, that's gonna be 10.
Okay. So as you stop with Ayla, kind of positioning yourself to do the objective that you are currently focused on, you kind of, if this was a fairy tale romance novel, this would be a perfect scene. There is the shimmering light of the moon kind of cast across the bay, silhouetting both of your frames against it. The like general warm light of the various lanterns on the street just kind of like softly illuminating each other's features. And Ayla is just like, oh my god, yes, like this is all that I've ever dreamed of, all I've ever hoped for. And as you're speaking, she's just like sparkles in her eyes, staring up at you, just like holding your hand, just like dripping on every single like word that you say. But as you kind of like stare right over her head, you see this maybe 5-6 foot tall individual, clearly with a cloak over. It's very difficult to discern specifics about it. There is like the shape of a face you can see from beneath the hood, but nothing identifying. And as like you stop, you see just kind of like rest up against a wall, like just kind of like sitting there watching, not really doing anything.
Okay. We will proceed.
You would make it all the way to her apartment, basically.
So they're at the door. How I really was only trying to get her like tipsy. How far
Mhm.
gone is she?
She is still like there and aware, but she's inebriated, but she's like there. If that makes sense.
Then I think just I had a lovely time. It was a pleasure to walk you home this evening, but it sounded like they were going to do some business back at HQ, so I'd better hurry.
She kind of like has one of your hands in hers, and she kind of like gently taps it as you're speaking. She's like, Yes, they certainly need your expertise. I wouldn't want them getting in over their heads. I feel so lucky that you ended up at our guild. I mean, all of you ending up at the guild. It's been a little lonely with Camus. He's very nice, but he's a little rough around the edges. I mean, you're rough around the edges, but in a different way. Yes, thank you. Yes, for walking me home. It was a very lovely evening. Maybe we can repeat it with less company at some time.
Perhaps we can. Good night.
Good night. And she kind of like turns to open her door, and you just like you see this moment of her like freezing, and there's like a bunch of like turmoil going on. She's like, like opens the door and steps inside.
So once she's safely inside, I'm gonna head back in the general direction of the Ember Boar. I
Mhm.
want to see whether the tail is still with me.
Mhm.
Uh,
Once you like leave her be and like kind of step back up onto the street, you would not see the individual that you saw before, and if you went to start moving away, you would not see it following you.
I think. I think I want to scale one of the buildings that's near her building
Mm-hmm.
and just scout for a few minutes because I want to make sure that it's not someone that's on her
Okay.
or that's gonna break into her building.
Okay. I think it's easy enough to find some sort of like deck or patio or some sort of roof access that gives you a vantage point to her like general like entrance to her apartment. You can get up there, kind of sit and observe for a little bit. Again, you see the kind of residual people of the day kind of moving about, getting into their homes, laughing as they return from their own afternoon of, out on the town. But you would not spot anyone that kind of fit the vague description you had to work with. You wouldn't see anything alarming around her door, or like from her apartment. Just be kind of quiet.
All right then, back to the guild.
All right. So do you all want to discuss this evening, or do you want to make it first priority in the next day?
Of the quest?
Yeah.
I
Like,
definitely
what?
would be interested in looking at it.
It's like what, 8
Yeah, I
o'clock
think
at night?
And we have a rather inebriated Thomas, and I'm assuming Sven is partly gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, he presents
Nothing is
himself
unused
much
to.
better, but
I will go ahead and throw them up for you to peruse. The completed contract is up in the corner, but that is I guess what you could all look at your own leisure as you go back to the guild. And Quinn, you can kind of arrive whenever you see fit.
So after looking at the two of them, I'm like, well, that's easy. We're not steel rank yet, so and kobolds. My vote's for kobolds. I vote for kobolds. That almost rhymes.
Very good, Thomas.
I
Well,
actually
gentlemen.
go into the kitchen and grab some of the bread that I'd gotten that morning and bring it out and hand it to Thomas.
I vote for kobolds. I vote for kobolds.
He does have a good point though. We are just bronze.
But
We
the other
are.
contract is assisting an investigation.
And if I remember Ayla's comment on the contract we just completed, she nearly classified that as steal, but considering dealing with the ogres wasn't necessarily part of the contract, she did not.
The
I think depending on whether they expect us to bring this criminal in or just report on him, that might be a...
it's a bounty, so they probably want us to bring him in. But for much the same reason that I thought the ogre contract would be the better one, I think we should go with the kobolds. It seems to be harassing a community,
Well,
and there could be innocent people that are getting hurt by these things.
and who's to say this? Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, who's to say this criminal that isn't also a threat to community and people? And
Well, then there's the potential hoard and treasure too, so that's always
Well,
a bonus.
I will make one point. If this quest is short, we may be able to do both if we can investigate quickly.
There's no need to decide tonight. We can certainly sleep on it.
and Ayla may
I feel
have
like
some
I could be
details that
talked in
aren't
either
here.
one.
Just because I know this was covered originally. What is the basic breakdown of like short versus long versus?
So what Ayla described is short, and this is very loose, and also you have to go off
Yeah.
the understanding that she can't like precisely identify it, so her own guidelines are loose. But short is like a day or two is usually the expectation. Medium is like a week, maybe around that time, and long is like a
Right.
month-ish or more. So that's the general time frames.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. The ogre one was medium. Because that's an element we should keep in mind as well, as spending a month to deal with kobolds is a long time away from here, a long time just in general.
Yeah, it is. Why is it so long, but for so little money?
Well, look, it's over to Yevaloon. I think I pronounced that correctly. I don't know. Look, if we are trying to help the guild's name out, perhaps something a little closer to home would be better.
But
And the other one is more money.
yeah, it's hard to argue with that logic.
And it's one criminal and an unknown amount of kobolds.
Why is he a bad man?
Don't know. It's not on the contract.
We just got off the road. If we're looking for things to tip the scales one way or another, it would be nice to have something right here in town.
Don't disagree with that. First one was to make our name as taking a contract we probably shouldn't have, whereas this one It's not to say we don't have to leave Messidora if the guy goes in the run, but
Well, then shall we adjourn and assume that perhaps we should pick up
probably
this in
worth
the
getting
morning?
probably worth getting some more information from Ayla on both of them for a better understanding of the situations.
Oh yes. How did she find her way home, Quentin? Everything work out?
I thought we were being followed at one point, but maybe it was nothing.
That's concerning.
Not known you for long, but if you got the impression that you're being followed, I'd not be quick to dismiss that.
The fact is, it may not have anything to do with the guild, but if we're working together, you should know.
Appreciate it.
Well, to bed for the
Pass
group
button
then?
again.
That's it.
I'll
I'm going to bed.
Okay.
Early morning.
But
So,
I'm not feeling very well.
No, Thomas, I know you had too much. But Brainoon give you some bread. Make sure to eat it.
I already ate it, but I think I'm gonna see it again.
Oh goodness, no. Okay, here, come. And I guess usher him to the. Is that an outhouse type of situation?
The alley?
Or the alley? Yeah, I guess just.
Yeah. So I will, given that 7, I think I'm gonna lose everything up to and including what's left of the oatmeal in my belly.
nice.
And Sven will just kind of like clean him up and usher him to bed. Oh my dear friend, no. We shall have to work on this. You must be able to hold more.
No, I'm never drinking again. Ever.
Well, that's what we all say.
And then, yeah, I'll pour myself into bed. No bedclothes, nothing, just robes and all.
Quinn, are you also finding your way to sleep, sir?
Yeah.
As everyone settles down, and whoever ends up falling asleep first, maybe like a minute or two after everyone enters the room, you would see Camus kind of pass by the door. And you just kind of peer in, kind of look you all over, and then go back to his office. But another morning would arise in the fabulous town of Messidora. This is now the 29th? Yeah. So
Yes.
you would awaken on the 29th of June, whatever time you all want to pull yourself from your evening of celebration or the lingering effects of such. At dawn, Ayla would dutifully come through the door, though look slightly less enthused than normal. But yeah.
When I got up, I would be sure to bring her some water and a light breakfast, because I'm assuming she hasn't eaten anything yet.
Mm-hmm. I'll leave you guys on the contracts page, though, just so you can look at them. But we can, instead of doing everything back and forth, what would be some of the general questions that the group would have for the contracts?
Yeah, why is the Kobold contract so long, so low paying? What's the backstory on that?
So I'll give you the general gist of what she knows, and you can dig deeper if need be. The town of Yevaloon is fairly far away. It's perhaps like a week or more, depending on how quick you go or what route you take. But it is on the river that runs through this valley, and they are saying, or they are claiming, that there is some sort of kobold group faction organization on the other side of the river, which is where the nomadic people lay claim, and they can't do anything about it. The council can't send any sort of military force over that boundary, and so they are suffering the issues of being in close proximity for this thing, but they have no idea where they stay, where they really come from, how big they are, because they're just constantly having like cattle picked off and things stolen and houses burned down, and that's the general issue. So Ayla kind of explains that traveling, investigating, finding the source or getting rid of the source, traveling back, probably going to take a little bit of a stint. As far as the payment, this is just all the money that the community could scrounge up to kind of waste on this. Waste not being the proper term, but expend on a contract. So that would be the reason that it's pretty low paying considering the amount of effort you must put in.
Now, how well known is that town to the general region?
It's right. I'll go ahead and switch you guys over to Messidori. Not Messidori. Runethosi real quick. So I haven't marked it specifically on the map, but it is on this main road leading north to that other big city in the interior of the continent. It's probably somewhere around here, like in this bend of the river. And so while it's not a massive settlement, it is like something that sees a lot of transport and travel.
Yeah, it's directly on a trade route between. So anything that we do in that town is going to get back. It will be known locally, I would assume. So we can do the same character or out, but Thomas's stance would go back to wanting the kobold contract, and I'll appeal however I can, but his real motivation is because it's the town's kind of an underling there, and this is they need help and nobody's helping them, and I remember being in that position. So
the last thing Ayla will mention is that some of the peasants have reported seeing a dragon during some of the raids or the attacks. And Ayla, kind of being someone experienced in this line of work, is like, it could literally be like a large log, or it could be a kobold being mistaken for a dragon, or it could be maybe a dragon, but probably not. And that's why she ranked it so low, is she feels like that's probably not a true claim.
Sven's vote would be for assisting with criminal investigation first, in an attempt to get that done quickly, and then swoop and grab the other one too.
You want the summary of that one?
Yeah, I'd be curious as to like what sort of criminal is this? Is this he steals from rich people? To Brain Noon, I was like, that's kind of a victimless crime, but
so the actual contract is done by a bounty hunter in pursuit of this guy. And he's basically just asking for more or less muscle in his pursuit. The actual person that he is going after is a gnome who is a rather well-known jewel thief, or at least like a, not necessarily jewels, but at least like, what's the word I'm looking for? Expensive accessories
Valuables
of some sort. Yeah. And his name is... his name is Longfinger, or at least that's what he goes by. And he's not currently wanted by the Evasial Council or the elves by any means. He is traveling through here as far as Ayla could kind of pin down. And so this hunter has been tracking him for quite some time. And he offered up that the reason he wants extra muscle is because he started accumulating like a gang around him, or at least followers, whatever you end up calling it. And so he doesn't believe that he can take them on by himself at this point. And he's been known to kill bounty hunters in the past. So trying to do that solo is probably a poor idea, which is one of the main reasons Ayla points to it being a steel ranked mission versus bronze, is he is known to kill people pursuing him. The hunter didn't give a bunch of details just in case you guys didn't pick up the contract, but the kind of spark notes is that he believes he's planning something in Messidori, and that's why he's here. And he's hoping to find him. He doesn't quite know where he is, but knows that he is here. So that's I guess the long and the short. Yeah. And the contract, or the hunter's name, is Jolin Sfoil.
Yeah, kind of countering to Thomas's argument is Brandon would point out that if this is something that be completed in a day or two, it's a day or two potential delay on a week or more journey to get to this village. And if the village had enough time to send a representative here, submit contracts, and travel back, odds are a 2-day delay isn't going to be a significant. Like, yes, the village is still in danger, but are the kobolds going to burn the village to the ground in the next 2 days? Type of argument.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be hard to convince Thomas. I mean, he's still very out of his element in the whole decision-making process. But
I feel like that logic is good enough for me.
It's kind of the counter of the last one we used with the ogres of the lost locket. It'll still be here when we get back, but
it wasn't.
But yeah,
I mean, obviously, if there's a way to help them both, then that's the best of all possible outcomes.
not to mention buying provisions for a week-long journey to this village and a week back. Having some extra coin in our pockets wouldn't be a bad thing. Not that I'm, broke or anything, but
But it sounds like you all are going for the bounty hunter contract.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Are you kind of picking up immediately on that today, or are you preparing any more? Or...
I mean, if it's still morning, like there's nothing urgent in Brainerd's schedule.
Mhm.
I don't know what
Yeah,
anybody else might have been wanting to do.
Yeah, at this point, having nothing else pressing, I would definitely advocate for at least talking to this contact first or soon, so that we don't waste any more time if we're going to try and do them both.
All right.
Found into bricks.
One moment. Talks amongst yourselves for a moment, gentlemen.
Talking.
Kind of a dumb question, but does anyone know how to adjust the music volume on Roll20?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you go to the
'Cause
settings
I've tried
and go
to do
to
it in
audio,
settings.
there is this master slider that you should be able to adjust.
It's did it finally
Yes.
work?
So
Oh my god, I've been using that each week and it wouldn't do anything until I finally set it to 0 and then moved it up.
There you go.
So like you had to bottom it out for it to recognize. Gotcha.
Mm.
Okay. So Ayla would inform you all that the individual, the tracker, or the hunter, I guess I should call him, bounty hunter, she kind of told him to stay at the South Shore Crossing, which is the tavern that you all arrived in your first day here in Messidore, and that if you guys picked up the contract, she would send you that way. So that would be the information you have to go off of if you want to go speak to this man today. All right, love the enthusiasm.
While we were walking there, I'll
Taking
be
notes.
right back.
Okay. So you guys obviously know where it is, and you would make your way over there. It is early enough in the morning that, most people have kind of woken up and kind of drifted into the main room, having breakfast or a very early lunch, and kind of going about their business. Speaking to the, I guess, tavern keeper, he would inform you that the person you're looking for hasn't woken up yet, but can't give specifics, basically leaving you to mingle for a little bit before this person does find their morning. But eventually, as you all kind of settle in and wait, maybe about 30 minutes, maybe an hour, somewhere in that time frame, coming down the stairs is this rather surprisingly young-looking human. He's maybe 21, 22. Like, you kind of expect when you picture like a bounty hunter, or at least someone who has been at this for some time, to be this like grizzled, well-equipped, kind of stoic figure. But it's this kind of like, I don't want to say goofy, but light-hearted, kind of spry human who comes down, and the tavern keeper kind of all gives you a little indication that that's the man you're looking for. He's dressed in mainly leather. There's a few bits of like iron and metal armor kind of around him, but nothing too substantial. He has a vast amount of like bandoliers and pouches and like a sash over his shoulder and a backpack kind of hanging off one side. He has a, simple looking longsword on his belt, and he just kind of comes down the stairs, looks around, kind of sees you all looking his direction, and goes, "You looking for me?"
Yes.
Wow,
You
you're,
posted
what
a
was-
contract.
you're from the just down the street. What was it? The Flaming Pigs or something?
Or something.
What? Yeah, let's sit. You have drinks yet today? Drinks, yes?
Yes, please.
Yes, water with lemon, please.
Kind of
I'm
sits
not
down
drinking
and
anymore.
waves the tavern keeper over and makes sure everyone has an appropriate drink that he more or less indicates that he's going to pay for. Sits down, kind of like leans back in his chair, kind of like propping himself up on the back two legs as he's just like, I'm sure you got questions, yeah?
Why is he a bad man?
Long finger. Dude, I don't know if he's a bad man, but he certainly pays to capture. He's killed a few other individuals that I guess I would call peers, but it's a loose term. I'm in it for the money, really, but he's certainly not a good man.
You think he's got a target here in Messidore?
Yeah, I wish I knew more than I did. I've been here for about 2 or 3 weeks now. Kind of looks at the tavern keeper, kind of like affirms his guess. Like, I can't get close. Every time I do get close, one of his companions, I don't know, muscle, whatever he fucking calls them, kind of pushes me away or trails me a little bit too close for comfort. But he doesn't stay in one place for long unless there is a goal in mind or some sort of valuable that he's looking to procure. And I am very aware that Messidore has some influential individuals, Elven City, old shit, valuable shit. So I imagine that he's trying to get something out of here before he departs to the next place.
What does he look like?
And I told the your elf host this loose description. Looks like he got slapped in the face by a pen. Flat nose. Kind of looks rough, old, gnome, hat.
Oh. Going off that description, that's like most gnomes?
I mean, yeah, it's not what you would want for a description, but it's better than nothing.
Did he pick up the muscle here, or did they travel with him here?
I've been following him from Asmiliath. You know Asmiliath, right? That's yeah, but yeah, you don't care. Back then he had like 5, 6 people kind of mingling around him. Stowed away on a ship, almost got him there. Here he has, I think it's like 10 or 11 I've counted so far.
So it's a group of up to 12 people?
Yeah.
And what would you need of us? Are we to fight the 12 people?
I mean, if they fight us, yeah, I expect you to fight back, and I guess kill. You have killed before, right?
Ogres, in fact.
Have you killed people?
We killed an imp. And those two, I'm sure, have killed people. Pointing to Gwen and Brayno.
Can't say I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean they're all scum, so they're not really people. But yeah, that seems to be the size of it. We might have to get into a few scrapes and scruffs, and I have all the proper authority to dispatch people that are putting me in harm's way. And then Longfinger himself, wanted alive, but honestly at this point I'd fucking kill him.
Have
How?
you talked to Captain Kirith?
Who?
Perhaps I wrote Captain Kirith Akubola?
I haven't really bothered with the authorities here. I talked to what was the main one, the ventriloquists, whatever, the big ones, the ones that are representatives here. They didn't have any interest because he's not wanted here in Messidora. He's wanted by everybody else, so might be why he chose this fucking city.
Hmm.
You all seem
How did
very
you-
confident.
How did you get into this line of work?
I mean, simple enough. I needed coin. Didn't really have any goal in life. Parents aren't worth a shit. Decided to start tracking fucking criminals across all of Talora. It's thrilling work.
And how long have you been at this?
Kind of like eyes you with not resentment, but just kind of like you brought it up. You brought up the elephant in the room. Especially the dwarf bringing it up. Kind of like, I have been tracking Longfinger for 1.5 years now. Before then, I have completed 2 bounties.
I mean, you would only be our second official contract, so we're all equally experienced.
Can I get some sort of, like, you describe, I want to get a read on this guy. Like, is his gear there for show? Is his gear, like, does it have signs of use? Is
Give me
it
insight.
17?
Okay. It's certainly worn. There are various indications of scrapes and usage, and it's a little difficult to tell if that's from just like storing it or wearing it or using it or actual battle or conflict. It is worn appropriately. Like he's not like slapping wrong pieces of armor on himself or wearing something that's just entirely useless. But the general vibe that you could get just from the brief interaction and his demeanor is he knows enough to carry himself, but he probably isn't some renowned warrior.
Sorry, just trying to piece things together.
Do you get more lively when there's drinks in you? That's usually how I am.
So as far as what you need us to do,
We're his muscle is essentially what it comes down to.
Longfinger has goons, and he wants goons.
And I also imagine that if you're working for the League, you have some skills that might come in handy when I'm trying to piece all this shit together.
so investigation then.
I did mention that, yes.
So, I hate to be that guy, but why are you only paying 120 if we're essentially completing the contract for you?
You're not completing the contract for me. You are assisting me in completing the contract, and I've put in years of effort while you're probably going to put in less than a week.
And all your years of effort, though, would come to nothing because you're quite incapable of bringing him in, aren't you?
Sort of cut eyes at Thomas.
Kind of like looks you all over like, do you actually want this contract, or you're just here to spin my wheels?
I think that's his way of asking what the bounty is.
Depends on where I turn him in.
Well, where are you going to turn him in?
Well, if he's alive, then I'm bringing his ass back to Central. God damn, I don't want to be on another fucking boat. But I think last time I checked there, it was 1,200 gold pieces. He is wanted in Asmiliath, and I am heading back that way, but I think they're only paying like 5 or 6 or something, but I don't really need it. But yeah, it's substantial. It's worth a year and a half of work.
A moment, if you will.
Please.
How do I do this without, like, 'cause he's right there?
I mean, you guys could
I
walk
guess-
away if you want. Yeah.
Like,
A sidebar. Yeah.
A moment, gentlemen. Maybe a. So, I mean, it's, might have to fight, might have to kill, but, rousing warriors that we are, easy enough. He looks a bit inexperienced.
there's a slight raising of Brainion's eyebrows with that coming from Sven.
You're quite good at detecting inexperience.
It's less his experience that I'm worried about. It's his cavalier attitude. The fact
Something
that
tells me that Longfinger is more of a handful than he is giving him credit for.
I think that in a fight that outmatches us 2-1, unless he's far more handy with his weapons than his experience would indicate, the odds would not be in our favor.
I'm less concerned with combat prowess and more concerned with ingenuity. Quinlan can speak to that better than I, but a weapon's not the only way to hurt people.
Very true.
No, I can cast I can cast spells that can hurt him too. So can Sven.
So bloodthirsty, Thomas. Well, as it were, how do you feel? Shall we proceed? I still think the quick money is not a bad idea.
I'm less confident.
I'm less confident, but I don't know, the chase, as they say, sounds interesting.
And more importantly, we don't have to sleep under the stars for another week. I'd rather not rough it.
Sort of like I said back at HQ, I'm ready to be talked out of it, but I think we could go ahead.
So with risk comes reward.
Just for my own clarification, completion of the contract is he has possession of either a living or dead Longfinger.
Yeah, that's the general understanding.
Okay. My largest concern is that this bounty hunter seems to have a severe lack of information about his target. He doesn't know why he's here. He doesn't know. He has a lot of theories. Actual information.
I think we'll fill in those blanks for our own sake.
It seems like we're doing his homework for him. No offense, Sven, but I don't really like that.
No, understandable. You did quite a bit of that.
Just wanting to make sure we know what we're getting into.
At the end of the day, that is sort of the MO for an adventurers guild, isn't it?
Right, but I thought we would be going out and finding bad people and bringing them to justice or finding lost things. He's doing that, but he just needs our help because he can't handle the job. But it doesn't seem like we're getting what we would deserve for doing the hardest part of that job.
Well, I mean, if he's truly been after this guy for a year and a half, and he's got to be stuck on a boat for 2 months getting him back to Central to get his payday, 10% of that pay for 2 days' work isn't bad.
True, he's got to either transport a living Longfinger that'll be looking to chew through his neck at the first opportunity, or a corpse. I'm not worried about the pay.
No. I'm more concerned with our state at the end of this.
As am I don't like those odds at all.
Well, gentlemen, as you two are significantly well more versed in these types of matters, then if you do not have a good feel for it, perhaps we should go on the road. Yeah, just the thought of like all the dirt and the grime.
Mhm.
Before we leave, Thomas, whenever we go out on the road, or Sven, I'm sorry, it just happens.
Hangover.
Yeah. We can certainly try to procure some more fitting accommodations, like maybe some tents and a cushion for you.
Oh. Yes. Well, gentlemen, then do we leave him to be? It feels like that seems to be the better choice.
My hope was that he would bring more clarity to the situation, and I'm not entirely sure he's done that.
I think that getting this jewel thief is a way to send a message that Messidore is our town now.
You're not wrong.
Today, gentlemen.
We'll be done by today, I promise.
Over my shoulder. Perhaps if you were up earlier, we could have gotten an earlier start on this.
Kind of just like leans over and grabs one of the cups you left behind. Nah.
Brainu never drank from his, so it would be full. Still the same thing. 2 days. The contract seems to go longer than originally estimated that we can bring up at that time, though. Hopefully he has some sort of plan on how to proceed with this.
Then onward and forward.
I'm more inclined to tell him to stand back and watch, but onward.
Agreed upon then?
Begrudgingly, I think.
Okay.
All right, as you all turn around, he would kind of slap the table, be like, "Ah, good. What's your names? I'm good with names." And that's where we'll end today's session.